people. Hey, look, I should say welcome to August, man. You know what I'm saying? It's like this year's passing by so fast, isn't it? I mean, it's like almost thinking about it from a political standpoint. It's like almost I just remember President Trump just getting elected. We've been talking about it. You know what I'm saying? But it's been going on 2 years. And I mean, we already in August, man, of this year. So we only got a few more months left on a political, to think about it from a political standpoint. You know what I'm saying? We only got a few more months left until we get to the midterm elections. You know what I'm saying? But guys, we just concluded the Tax the Rich tour. For all of you guys who watched it and all of you guys who supported, I really appreciate it, man. I could say I'm satisfied with that tour. You know what I'm saying? I look at the tour that I did for the We the People tour, and we covered a lot more states. It's like I delivered a lot more content, and I spent a lot more money for advertising. And that being said, you know what I'm saying, I got a lot more video views. But for me doing everything organically, you see what I'm saying, on the Tax the Rich tour, man, I'm saying like I'm pretty happy with how everything went. You know what I'm saying? But that being continuing, we're going to continue with strategizing with Ghost Rider, man. We up here in NYC. We're going to keep it pushing. You guys don't know, on the Upper West Side, man, all of you guys in the live stream, I ask that y'all double tap the video for me on your screen if you're on a cell phone. It's free to show love, man. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and make sure you guys hit that notification bell, guys. I'm going to go ahead and jump right into it. If you guys can't see, or you guys can't tell, like it's coming down, it's like cats and dogs. It's raining cats and dogs out here in Manhattan on the Upper West Side. But you know what I'm saying? Even though we're not on tour, not in the studio, I'm still on the road. So we're going to continue to do the content. I'm going to bring you the content how I was bringing it to you before outside. And we're going to just hit some strategies, man. And that's what we're finna do right now. So we're going to get to it right now. We got news. I'm going to give you guys the news first, as I always do. The United States, and this is according to President Trump, his words out his own mouth, that the United States and Iran will sit down again starting this week and begin what, y'all? The 4th, the 5th, the 6th, the 10th round of negotiations. You know what I'm saying? I'm saying if you hear that 18 American troops dead, we're talking about how many more, hundreds more injured. If you hear that there's a situation to where gas prices won't raise anymore, they'll come down, or inflation, you think about the price of goods will be lowered. I'm saying if you think about all of that, is welcoming news and good news for me, for you, for the United States, for the Gulf states, for Israel, for the entire Middle East, for Iran as well. Because I talked about it before, and I'm going to spend a second talking about it right now. Y'all make sure y'all like the video, double tap the screen as y'all come down, as y'all get into the video, into the live stream, and y'all jump down in the comments, man, and y'all tell me how y'all feel, what y'all think, man. This is what I'm saying. I'm saying I don't see or understand Iran's greatest strategy. If you were against the United States looking like a bully, or if you straight out are for Iran winning this war, I'm saying it makes no sense in my view moving forward. Iran cannot defeat the United States in a war, in an armed, prolonged conflict. The United States have more money, their troops are better equipped, their troops are better trained. I could say Iran's troops have experience. They have more experience than the Chinese, the IRGC, being that Iran funds the Houthis, Hamas, and Hezbollah. You see what I'm saying? They might have experience fighting skirmishes, even if against the United States. But I'm saying if you look at the bigger picture and think that the Iranians in a long-term conflict, I talked about it before, because I'm an honest person, man. I'm non-partisan. I'm non-political. You see what I'm saying? I'm going to just tell you the truth and what I see. And what I see is that the United States before, against the Taliban, we did removed the Taliban from power, and we did leave, and the Taliban did retake power. That is true. I have a balance. But what you gotta understand is the United States hunted and killed from Osama bin Laden, Barack Obama, President Trump. They all killed top commanders, top generals. They dismantled the Taliban as it stood. And this is a 20-year later Taliban, is a Taliban that is much more friendlier to the United States. It's still the Taliban. And you could say, yeah, the United States military overall, you could say, yeah, that don't look like that's a victory. But what I'm saying is for the IRGC and the situation that they're in, every single major or every single leader that you have will be killed. The Americans will hunt and kill every single last one of them. It doesn't make sense for Iran. Listen, I heard, you heard, and it only makes sense that Iran is trying to fight a war of attrition against the United States. So that means they have particular goals, not that they're going to line up against the United States and fight a conventional war, but it's just like it's certain things that they're trying to accomplish. Man, I seen a news report that the IRGC revealed plans on how the Iranians are talking about assassinating Melania Trump. The IRGC is very upset about the killing of their 87-year-old supreme leader. They're very upset about that, you know? So they want to retaliate. How serious we take that, it depends, but I'm trying to say, how can we negotiate against them or with them? And I'm saying, what is the Iranians' goal? What are their goals in this war? They know they can't defeat America in a conventional war. So what you trying to do? You trying to make President Trump look stupid? You already accomplished that. I'm saying in some form, in some ways, you got plenty of Democrats laughing. I'm saying this war has scarred the Republican Party and hurt the Republican Party politically to where almost every single prediction market that I have seen have predicted that the Democrats are going to win back the House of Representatives. It's like, listen, I was hearing some people talk about it, some Democratic representatives. It sounds like they talking right. Somebody said Hakeem Jeffries don't have like a national strategy, but I'm talking about these individual Democratic candidates, they talking right. They like, listen, Ghost, look, forget the Iran. The Iran war is the cherry on top. What they were talking about is 25% of Americans having higher healthcare prices. That's a problem with or without the Iran war. They were talking about millions of cuts to Medicaid and SNAP. That's a problem that you have with or without the Iran war. They were talking about the enforcement of immigration and brown people being afraid of their lives, even American citizens being killed. Whether or not it was justified or not, you ain't had no trial, so how we know? You ain't had no proper, transparent investigation, so how do we know? I'm saying those are issues. If you look at the issues across the board, and then it's like Iran just exacerbates the situation. Because what we look at, the fundamental reason why you elected is to address affordability, or to say it better, to address inflation. And I'm saying, since you've been president, I don't want to hear nothing about no illegal immigrants. I don't want to hear nothing about Barack Obama. Listen, President Obama's peace plan with Iran would have expired by now already. It would have expired this year. So even if President Trump say Iran, he looks back and blames Iran for President Obama for his failure with dealing with Iran, I'm saying that Obama peace plan would have ended this year, so President Obama would have had to deal with him anyway. The American people don't want to hear you blaming President Obama and President Biden if you've been in a job for like 19 months. Imagine you hire me to work for your business. And my job is to prepare legal documents, as I do. I'm an independent paralegal. But say you got a quota that I prepare 110 legal documents every month. And say every single month I keep up coming up short. 10 legal documents, you don't worry about it. But say I'm down in the 80s. And you come to me and you say, hey, why your production is not on point, Ghost? You short on your legal documents. You type too slow. And I say, hold up, boss, you know what the problem is? The problem is the guy or the gal that you had working here in this job before me 19 months ago. That's the problem. What you think your boss gonna say? What you think the boss gonna say to me? Pack your stuff, Ghost, and get up out of here. You can't look back. You've been in a job or a position 19 months. The American people, the boss, they don't want to hear about Joe Biden and that. Listen, President Trump, this is what the American people got to say to you in a message today. And I'm not saying all Americans feel like me, but the majority are the consensus. Listen, everything you saying about President Trump, President Biden is true, President Trump. We understand that. That's why we elected you. Everything you saying, President Trump, about President Biden, we understand that, but that's why we elected you, buddy. So you 19 months into the job, why you keep talking about that dude and how bad he was? We know that. That's why we picked you. What you done? Your inflation at this point is higher than his. And you can't blame this on COVID. It's your own doing, your own handling and managing of situations. And I'm saying all of this plays an effect into what's going on moving forward in Iran today, right now. Because my question is, what's Iran's goals? If we understood the Iranian goals, then that means we would be able to properly negotiate with them if we understand your goals. Because I'm looking at the chessboard right now for Iran. You have the Gulf states promising them $400 billion with a B. If you said President Obama gave them 450 million, I'm saying they came up like, I'm talking about, what, 300, 400, 500%? You went 10 times 10, you in the billions with a B now. 450 million turned to 400 billion. Yeah, that's what's on the table for the Iranians with the memorandum of understanding. On top of that, the United States will unfreeze 24 billion and lift the sanctions, allowing you to sell your oil on the world market without no repercussions. That means everybody will buy your oil. I'm saying, so I'm looking at that. I'm saying for Iran, within 3 to 5 years, that's $1 trillion. I didn't look up the Iranian GDP. I'm sorry I should have, but I'm saying I know the Iranians are not making no $1 trillion a year. A nation of $100 million, and they do make a lot of money on selling oil, but you thinking the Iranians clear $1 trillion a year? I don't believe so. I don't think so. I should have looked it up. Somebody please look that up for me and put it down in the chat. I'm saying that's a lot of money for them. That's probably more money than they're getting every single year. That's what's on the table for them. So if you got more money than you get every single year, and if you a nation, your long-term goals is to compete with the United States and Israel militarily, they notice the only way you could do this is by getting money. So I'm saying, you got on the table like a whole bunch of money, more than you get in a year. That's your goal. But I'm saying at this point, you turn around and you continue firing at ships in the straits. So it's like, to me, you going in this negotiation before, listen, if I was President Trump, this is what I would do going into this negotiation this time. As soon as I sit down at the table, before we could talk about nuclear material, before we could talk about revamping or not revamping the memorandum or going straight to a deal or however they gonna do it, before we could talk about any of that, the first thing we gotta talk about, the Iranians gotta understand that you cannot charge a toll of the Strait of Hormuz, and you cannot have control of the straits. That has to be understood from the get-go. I think if that's understood from the get-go, you're going to get some progress. See, that's how Ghost would do it. I wouldn't be pit-patting, diddly-daddling. Bro, I'm telling you, if General Kane need to be on that negotiating team, you need a military man. He going to get a different respect from a military man to military man. The IRGC, I know the Iranians are sending politicians, but the IRGC is calling the shots for the most part. They in control. You see what I'm saying? It's IRGC commander that I keep seeing coming on TV. Same dude with the same face. And I'm saying that's who in control. So if you have a military man negotiating for you, I'm saying not only he gonna get a certain amount of respect, I'm saying he gonna be straightforward in those goals and objectives, unlike a politician, even like a negotiator. He gonna be clear, point. And I know how General Kane, if he done talk to President Trump, he know the goal. He gonna go in there straight on the table, go to military man. Shout out all our military men. Number one, Iran, you cannot have control of the strait, period. That seemed like their biggest hang up. The Iranians really, see, this is why President Trump, this is how you gonna get judged depending on the conclusion of this conflict. Because at this point now, the Iranians really thinking in their mind that they got a chance of having control of that strait. They done made millions off of charging tolls. They done made millions off of charging tolls because the United States came with that blockade too late. The Iranians enriched themselves and poured more oil than they were prior to the war. See, the U.S. came with the blockade and they had to cut Iran off from making that money because they were getting more money from this situation and the strait than they did prior to the war. Way more money. It was beneficial for them economically. So Iran, in their mind, it has to be somewhere thinking that it's some kind of financial benefit if they think that they can have control of the straits. You got to take that off the table, number one, when you sit down with them. And I know this probably is not going to be successful negotiations. We're going to talk about that in a second. But what I'm saying, after you take that, when you put that on the table, they can't have control of the straits. If they get to acting stupid, General Kane already got a plan for him when he got to go strike him in the mouth again. Because he's a calculating man. He don't all the way go to just help, you know what I'm saying, strategize and stimulate what he already know. General Kane already know that the numbers and the probabilities of not coming to a peace deal with the Iranians out of this is high. And he knowing that President Trump getting on the phone, calling him, resulting to military force again, and Secretary Hegseth, he know that those probabilities are probably high as well, too. So he know he probably gonna have to hit Iran again. So you know President Trump, General Kane, so you got a plan to hit Iran if you got to go back at them again, because they might not listen. But I'm saying it would have to be clear for me. I would have to have it on the table, point blank clear, from step number one. This is our biggest hang-up. Before we could go anywhere else, gentlemen, we have to get over this right here. This is our first thing we got to get over. The Iranians cannot have control over the Strait of Hormuz. And the Strait of Hormuz has to go back to a semblance of pre-war conditions. If I was in the meeting with the Iranians, the time they have to agree on this before I strike them again militarily is by the end of this meeting. Because if you do not agree on it, we have to be on the process to agreeing to that. Because look, you could make a deal. Look, listen, this is the memorandum of understanding. I'm going to make a deal over the Strait of Hormuz. What? But you look at the points in the memorandum of understanding. I know President Trump's first goal, Iran will not have a nuclear bomb. We're going to lift sanctions. We're going to give them a whole lot of money. We're going to A, B, C, and D. But I'm saying in that point, somewhere in that, the Iranians are saying, hey, we still going to have control over the Strait. We're going to set up toll booths. I heard the reports when President Trump, that's why I was saying, I was thinking, man, what? And knowing President Trump's personality, I thought that it's a good chance that this thing gonna fall apart, and in 10 days it fell apart. That's time number 3, at least. It might be number 4, where the Americans have sat down with the Iranians and it ended to blows, military again. Why wouldn't it happen again this time is what I'm saying. It may not. We hope that it may not, but we don't plan with hopes. We plan with numbers, reality, and strategy, and that's what we're doing now. We strategizing. You strategizing with Big Ghost, baby. Because the American people, why would I think, what's the chances of real peace in Iran? What are the chances? And how do you come to and achieve real peace? Because I'm saying, I think this is going to take longer than what it's taken so far. That it's going to be, we're going to see more strikes from the United States. We're going to see Iran misbehaving. This situation we in today, listen, this is how I define this war. Everything up to the memorandum of understanding, you could blame that on President Trump. And look, for all my bleeding heart Republicans and all you guys who might be like trying to save President Trump, you know what I'm saying? I'm just trying to say, listen, here was his decision to go to war. And in my opinion, like, it's just, this is an opinion thing that you could have resolved that situation a whole lot better without the way that you did it. We talked about that, broke that down 1,000 times. So I'm saying, and from the standpoint of looking at the polls and understanding what the majority of the American people thinking, let's say we put that first half of this war on President Trump up to the memorandum of understanding. We can't judge right now as I said this, the Democrats do not want to have this war continuing once they get power, if they do presidentially in 2029. You got a President AOC taking over in January 2029. Even I'm saying during the campaign, running the campaign, listen, if you have an Iran war waging in the Middle East, while President Trump is still president and the elections start, I'm saying that's going to change the elections, right? I'm saying in a peaceful America, I think AOC will have a very good chance. But her being a woman and her being younger and her not having as much foreign policy experience, I think, listen, if that war's still going on and the Democrats put a group of candidates on the scene, I think VP Harris got the best chance. She's got the most experience. You see what I'm saying? Dealing with foreign leaders and foreign policy. Gavin Newsom, he's been a governor, but I'm saying he don't have that much foreign policy experience. You got a war going on. You're going to want to have a Democrat who's had a lot of foreign policy experience running. You see what I'm saying? I'm saying, to me, it bode best for the Democrats for them to get their best candidate across the finish line. They're having the best chance of winning for that war to be over with. Plus, why, if VP Harris won, or if Governor Newsom or AOC, whoever, Governor Shapiro, I'm saying, why would the Democrat, they don't want to have nothing to do, no kind of situation with America. Let me tell the kind of America that you want to inherit from President Trump. You want to inherit America that collected a whole lot of money from terrorists. You want to inherit America that won in Iran and that has reestablished itself or reestablished the world order. That's the best play for a Democrat to come and shine. And I'm talking about show the Republicans how you really do it. We want to repeal those tax cuts. We want to repeal those cuts to Medicaid and those cuts to SNAP. And you sell that to the American people. We want your insurance prices low, even lower than what they were prior to President Trump's and them big beautiful bill or whatever you call it. That's how you win the election. That's what the American people care about. We're not going to fight, and we're going to end all stupid wars, and we're going to work to really lower gas prices. clean energy, whatever the Democrats' way of saying it. But that's how you win elections. That's how you win over the voters, the people, because you talking and speaking to their concerns. Does that make sense? The Democrats want this war to be over. I'm talking about you could want this war to carry on through November. That's understandable. There's no way in the world, the longer this Iran conflict stay alive, the more it looks like it's a problem for the Republicans and President Trump. I don't care what y'all saying on Fox News. I don't care how you trying to spin it. This is common sense. If you got the guy who's saying that this war isn't a problem for President Trump, because y'all might think that sounds insane, but I watch everything. I watch Fox News, and I heard that uttered. I ain't even gonna call no names. But he's saying this war isn't a problem for Republicans or President Trump politically. That's all spin. I'm telling you, it's a ginormous problem. You're gonna see it in November. I don't care what nobody say, and I don't care what nobody thinking. The majority of Americans in this live stream, y'all with me because y'all know it is a problem. Shoot, it's a ginormous problem. If it continues to November, that does benefit the Democrats. I don't know how it benefits American soldiers who's fighting in that conflict, who might lose their lives. I don't know how it benefits them. I don't know how it benefits the American people who are paying higher gas prices and higher food prices. I don't know how it benefits them. Another thing I heard on Fox News, a guy on there saying, hey guys, the economy is great. I put this on everything I love. The economy is great. It's people like that. Y'all, I remember me talking about Lindsey Graham putting the wrong answers on the chalkboard for President Trump. It's people like that who's saying that, who got President Trump really thinking that the economy is good. The stock market is good. Wall Street is good, but Main Street not so much. It's a tale of two Americas. It's like a splintering. But it's more people who are not doing good than it is for them. And it's quiet. The voice of those people who are not doing good are muffled. They don't have the microphone. They don't have the money. Tucker Carlson, when he talks about political issues, he's not speaking on the injustices of the people. It's like the loudest voices for that is people like Bernie Sanders and AOC. Real talk. Like politicians. The struggling of the poor. How the rich man is making money off the poor. How the marginalized people are being discriminated at at a higher rate than ever. I'm saying those are the causes that matter to me. You see what I'm saying? Should matter to the American people. The majority of the American people, man, they going through it. How many of y'all people know some people going through it? I'm saying I'm on the Upper West Side of Manhattan. If you live in this neighborhood, this message right here, it wouldn't resonate that well with the people who paying. I'm talking about the cheap apartments are $2,900. And expensive apartments like $12,000. It wouldn't resonate that well with the people here because they're not really hurting, but are they really hurting? I'm saying there's a lot of Americans who are doing well. Millions. 10% of American population, if we got 340 million, would be 34 million people. Am I right or wrong? So the top 10%, you know, people making over $200,000 a year, they doing just fine. Just like the guy on Fox News who said the economy is doing good. He's obviously probably one of those in the top 10% in America. That's 34 million. You said you got 340 million, so you got 304 million people left. How are they doing? It's not just the top 10%. You could go down a little bit more. There's more Americans that's doing well. But you have, you talking about the median income under $70,000 a year, unless you a single man making $70,000 a year, and even if you in New York City as a single person making $70,000 a year in Los Angeles, that's not no whole lot of money, boy. You barely making it. And that's the median income in the United States. So if you do the numbers, the voice, the silent majority over 200 million Americans. Their economy is not good. If you not, that's the key to recognizing and winning this election. If someone said Hakeem Jeffries need a national message, that's your national message. You have to draw that distinction. Because I'm saying, yeah, the stock market record numbers, I mean, you cannot argue. If you try to argue with the facts, you're going to lose. Because the people going to discern what the truth is. The stock market for President Trump then hit multiple records. Unbelievable number of records. Unbelievable growth. It's entered territory it's never entered before. That's all facts. You can't argue with facts. I don't argue with facts. You can't win like that. You might deceive people and lie and manipulate people, but in the end, the truth will prevail. Always does. So understanding that, and you just telling people the truth is, yeah, the stock market did this, A, B, C, and D, but it's working for a certain number of Americans. But a larger number of Americans, you don't have 130 million Americans that are completely satisfied with the economics in the United States. That's why you look at all the polls President Trump on the economy was supposed to be his strong issue. And we not just talking about CNN polls, we talking Fox News polls. He's underwater on the economy. That's why you can't understand the numbers. Because him being a billionaire and all of his cabinet and advisors being at least millionaires, a lot of them billionaires. And then when he look around them in their circles, oh, you know, Janet got a little homegirl and she, you know, she only make they calling $120,000 a year, you make it broke. So they know people making $120,000 a year who are in Mississippi who ain't doing that bad. But we talking about the majority of Americans. It's like the Republicans and President Trump, I still see that from Fox News. They cannot understand that. That is the lane for the Democrats. That's how they going to win. That strategizing with ghostwriter, I'm giving it to you right now. That's how they'll win in 2028. They going to backdoor the Republicans. Because I'm talking about, you looking at the voter under $50,000 a year. Look at the voter under $100,000 a year. Look how many of them it is. I'm saying you could easily build a coalition with whatever you working with. If you AOC and you got a bunch of women working for you, voting for you, or you got a bunch of Hispanics voting for you, you see what I'm saying? And then you got women and Hispanics voting for you, and you got voters under $50,000 voting for you. We looked at how hard the farmers were hurting. Record losses for the farmers in rural America. I think the Democrats got really, really good chance of winning Iowa. The prediction markets are starting to show that they're going to show up in Iowa, in red Iowa. That's what I'm trying to tell you. And then for me to say the Iran war, shout out Abby Phillip, CNN, I watched her show. It's more than the Iran war. It's the economy in general. The Iran war is just the cherry on top. The Republicans, you need to wake up. And I'm saying, even through all of that stuff, we look at the chessboard, the situation right now. I'm saying, will the Iranians accept peace, and on what terms? So last time we celebrated the memorandum, I'm saying we doing live stream during the Tax the Rich tour. We doing live stream after live stream after live stream after live stream. And we promoting peace. We promoting unity. We promoting negotiations against, rest in peace, what Senator Graham and Fox News and them promote. So we finally got the Iranians to the table, and the Iranians sent down, they ready to negotiate. You get this memorandum. And from that memorandum of understanding forward, remember, fair and balanced, non-political, non-partisan, patriot. If you look at the time period from the war, let's go back to in 2025. when President Trump first started talking to the Iranians, when he said that he obliterated their military or their nuclear capabilities. From that time all the way till you get to the memorandum of understanding, you could blame that on President Trump. Okay? Republicans, give me a second. I'm going somewhere. You could blame that on President Trump. However, from the time period of the memorandum of understanding being signed till today, all of the stupidity goes to Iran. So if you give somebody a stupidity award, you could say, hey, Democrats, I'm playing devil's advocate. President Trump get the stupidity award for not doing what President Obama did and coming up with a diplomatic solution. Instead, he wants to go to war with Iran at a time right before the midterm election. You see what I'm saying? And he got gas prices high, and we Republicans in Congress, we trying to win the election. I'm saying he got inflation high. The stupidity award goes to President Trump. He should have known the Iranians and he was going to have this problem with the Strait of Hormuz. I agree with you all the way up to the memorandum of understanding. At the point of the memorandum of understanding, in my mind, every military goal the Iranians could achieve, they achieved it. So rock with me for just a second. At the memorandum of understanding, like I said, I'm trying to litigate the case to get you to the end point. I'm saying their biggest goal has to be the money. Must be the money. It always is, right? Money is the root of all evil. And you know the Iranians, that government, the IRGC, is evil. Am I right or wrong? It's just, am I speaking facts or fiction? So I'm saying their goal, their primary goal has to be to get the money. It has to be. You had $1 trillion on the table. I'm saying I don't think you could get much sweeter of a deal than they already got. President Trump gave you the sweetest deal you could get. What hang up do they have? When some tankers were going off the coast of Oman, remember the strait's supposed to be open. The Iranians, they came out, they signed the deal. From what we understood, the Strait of Hormuz was open. We back to pre-war levels. That's what we thought was going on. Who didn't think that was going on? So you got ships, they going off the street. Now you got traffic. The Iranians want the traffic to go off their coast. It's like they like playing some gangsters, some Crips and Bloods. They want you to check in with them. They want you to check in with them and come off their coast if you're going through the strait. Remember, you supposed to have negotiated and got rid of. We thought this was over. Y'all already talked through this. And then you got ships going off the Strait of Hormuz. So the ones who went off of the Strait of Hormuz, that's the ones the Iranians attacked. They were mad. This is after the memorandum of understanding was already signed. What? What did y'all? This was a memorandum to say that y'all were going to negotiate for 60 more days for a nuclear deal, and you giving them a lot of money? Or was this a memorandum to solve this problem in the Strait? Because I'm saying whatever that was, whatever kind of situation you had going on, I'm saying it didn't work. And they using a $50,000 or less drone to destroy a $35 million or more Apache helicopter and attack tankers, and show that, number two, that they could control the Strait of Hormuz at any point that they want to. But regardless of that, if that looks good to you for Iran, or if you support Iran in this war, or if you don't want America to continue to be bullying other nations, wherever you stand at on the political map, geopolitically, I'm saying still in all, it doesn't make sense, because the Iranians are not going to be able to defeat the United States military in a prolonged conflict. Iran does not have the financial means. Iran, with the help of China and Russia, don't have the financial means. Russia is having to import oil. How come one of the largest world exporters of oil is for the first time having to import this much oil. Yeah, they're not gonna be able to help you. You're putting a choke on Russia right now. And I'm saying China, they want to play big bank, take little bank with the United States. The Chinese want to do that. They ain't got the bread. It's not beneficial for Iran to stay in this conflict for a prolonged period. If your goals and your objectives is to get the money, you got $1 trillion on the table. So you sit back down with the Americans again. That's why I'm saying the strategy. That's what we doing. We strategizing this morning. Remember I told y'all on the Tax to Rich tour, the number one thing is to be successful in these negotiations. I believe that's the difference between President Trump and President Obama, because President Obama, in the view of the majority, here we go, we're not talking about the specifics. We're not talking about how you feel, your mama feel, what your MAGA feel, what your Republican feel. We talking about in the view of the majority of the American people, the way President Obama handled that situation is greater than the way President Trump handled that situation. And we litigated that throughout the entire Tax to Rich tour. The majority of the American people feel that way. The majority, Fox News. You guys are not the majority. CNN is the majority. The majority of independents run a poll, they're going to be watching CNN, not MSNBC. You guys are not the majority either. The independents in the middle is the majority. Y'all just ain't figuring out some certain stuff, some key stuff. This representative government anywhere, the key to it is the majority. Yeah, you can build a coalition and you can win with that coalition when in 48% of the popular vote, President Trump won less than that the first time and still became president. So maybe that's why he don't understand what the majority means. But when we talking about governing, because when you governing, they're gonna poll Democrats, Independents, and Republicans. So your number's gonna be low. If you trying to govern for Republicans, that's why you gonna start after you've been in office over a year and a half, your approval rate gonna start hitting the 30s. Cause you got some loyal independents and you got some loyal people who's supporting you from your apprentice days. You got a fan club. But I'm saying the majority of Americans are the majority of voters. That's what we're talking about. That's how you keep the majority in Congress. That's how you keep the White House, by appeasing or attempting to make policies for the majority of the voters. I focus on the majority of the voters at all times. I don't care if the majority of the voters are saying that President Biden let too many people in America. I don't care, too many immigrants in. I don't care what the Democrats feel. I don't care about my Democrat friends not liking that. We need to speak the truth. They got to understand that they partisan. They got a job to do, and I'm nonpartisan. I got a job to do too. We got to speak the truth. I'm saying, like, while everybody was focused on J.D. Vance or President Trump saying they eating the cats and dogs, I'm saying I watched a town hall in Ohio where this was real stuff. The people weren't up there talking about the Haitians eating cats and dogs. They weren't talking about that. That was just some stuff President Trump said to draw attention to that situation. In Ohio, the real voters, a black man and 2 white men, were coming before the town board or the town hall, and they were saying that the Haitians were taking all of the low-income housing. The Haitians didn't know how to drive and were reckless on the road. They were saying the Haitians were getting all of the benefits, were taking all of their benefits, stealing all of that. It was black men too. In Ohio, they felt like this. The Hispanics in Texas felt like this. Governor Hochul and Mayor Allen, these are allies of President Biden. They calling President Biden and his administration and telling them, hey, see, that's just a fact. It's true. I'm going to tell you straight true. Non-partisan, non-political strategy. And moving forward, if you don't want to involve the military in these negotiations, I don't know how forceful Jared Kushner or Steve Witkoff could be, but when they go into that's the first thing you need to say. Y'all want me to act it out for you? This is the strategy. You could do it your way, but this is the best way to do it. They might have already started negotiating. But if they did, I'm saying day number 2, this is what I'm finna do. Regardless of how day number 1 went. The next time I step in front of them, hey, look, Ghost, this is what Ghost said, this is what y'all need to do. This is what Ghost said y'all need to do. As soon as I step in the room, I'm gonna say, hey, Iran, before you say they didn't got across the point that Iran can't have a nuclear bomb. I think everybody in the world knows that. President Trump did a great job of getting that across. They see he's serious about that. He's not gonna make the same errors he made with Kim Jong-un and North Korea. He gonna get the right balance on this and put his foot down and say it's not gonna happen. So it's gonna be too destructive. So I think we all got that point. You don't need no negotiations for that yet. Y'all can negotiate that deal just like the memorandum. We got that point. But I'm gonna be straightforward with negotiating that too. But right now we talking about the Strait of Hormuz, and so you could get past this nonsense and y'all could go behind the scenes and finish the real work that you gotta finish. But as long as the strait's not open, the public eyes is on this. The public eyes and the conversation gonna die down. If you want to go into the midterms, it's a strategy for President Trump and them. This is the only strategy, the coherent strategy, in my opinion, that he got. If you want to go into the midterms with the best chance of this situation disappearing, this is how you deal with this. Well, as soon as you go in that room, they might have already went in there, but I'm saying if they hear this, you pick up that phone and you tell them, our number one thing before we even gonna talk to you is that you cannot control the Strait of Hormuz. That is non-negotiable. I'm saying if you are saying that, I don't see how you don't even have to waste no time. If I was doing it, I would have my general to go in there and tell him that. And you got to the end of this meeting, however many hours it is, and my general get up and walk out that meeting, and you guys had they understand they can't have a nuclear bomb, so you did a good job teaching them that. They get that point. I think Iran understands that the whole world is not worried. I don't think no one in the world right now is worried about Iran getting a nuclear bomb. See, that's a win for Fox News, but see, y'all you run too far with it because you're too political. You got to stay centered with it. But that is true. Ain't nobody in the world right now at this moment is worried about Iran having a nuclear bomb because it ain't happening. We already know we don't even talk or think about that. We think President Trump, he still say it sometimes, but we think he should progress past that point because that's been established. It's not finna happen, okay? But what else they have to understand next, what's not gonna happen is you're not gonna control the Strait of Hormuz. Because I'm saying that's like, to me, that's their only, they think that they could get more money if they control the Strait of Hormuz than the deal they could get out with the United States. So you got to juice the deal for them. Get the Gulf states to put another $100 billion on the table. You saying you giving them money to do whatever? No, you not. If you make the deal or whatever you doing, if you doing it right, you gonna have to give them money. And it ain't no problem with giving. Listen, you got to get to whatever the goals are in this situation to get it over with. I'm telling you, the problem is the failed negotiation. You cannot listen to what some dingbat Republican on Fox News is saying who really wants a war continued, or he wants to try to have a fantasy view of America and their situation and how they gonna be on the world stage. That's really not realistic. It's not realistic that America is going to be the only dominant, completely controlling of the world superpower, Lindsey Graham. That's not realistic. So being realistic, you got to understand that you got to make concessions. I don't care about Iran getting as much money as they can. President Trump has made it that so they don't. It's a non-nuclear Iran with a bunch of money. Oh well, Ghost, they gonna get ballistic missiles and they gonna get Shahed drones. But this is what I'm saying. That you could work out at different times, different periods in your negotiations to ensure that that doesn't happen. You can work that out. But I'm saying my number one point right now that we keep gonna have to come back to, that we thought you negotiated the first time. I heard before we saw any terms in that memorandum that the memorandum isn't really about the nuclear deal, but it's about the Strait. So if it's about the Strait, this has to be said clearly. Listen, we heard the Mosaic plan, the Iranian plan since 2003, when America, or 2004, invaded Iraq, or Afghanistan, whatever. I don't even care. Those details don't even matter. The Mosaic plan, that you got 3 different provinces in Iran that are being ran independently, they got their own marching orders that was wrote prior 20 years ago, and it looked like that. That's a theory, or somebody got some intelligence. It's a report, you know what I'm saying? But it looks like that. They on all different pages. But I'm saying on all 3 different pages, they know that they not finna have a nuclear weapon. I don't care what they got wrote in their plan. President Trump has made that clear. The next thing you make clear is that you are not going to be able to control the Strait. In my opinion, you making that clear is more than you continuing to tell them that they're not going to have a nuclear weapon, because they already understand that point. Everybody in the world who knows anything about politics, or probably who got a television and cut it on at any time point and seen President Trump come on TV about this Iran conflict, it has been played across the world that he has said that they are not going to have a nuclear weapon. So I think we understand that Iran is not about to have a nuclear weapon. Point well taken, President Trump. So now your next goal is to make it clear like that to them. Like I said, I'm going to send a military man in there that they going to respect. The RGC is in control. This is what General Kane said. This ain't what no Jared Kushner, little pretty self said, or no little Steve Witkoff, rich polished self said. This is what General Kane said. He the one that's going to tell his troops to fire them ballistic missiles at you under the orders of President Trump. This is what the general said. He said the U.S. president said this, that you cannot control the straits unequivocally. You cannot charge toll booths unequivocally. If you want to negotiate getting some money in toll booths, how much if the Iranians would make $1 million a ship, and they calculating how many ships going through the straits, 200 ships a day. So they looking at that like that's $200 million a day, Ghost. In times 100 days, that's a whole 200 million a day. So how much money can you compensate them for that loss? Listen, President Trump, up to the Strait of Hormuz, up to the memorandum of understanding, I count that as a loss. Because now your negotiations is about the straits. And if you would have never attacked them, they would have tried to control the straits. And that's the biggest problem right now we have on the table. This you cannot blame on President Obama. This you cannot blame on President Biden. This is to do with the decision making, even though General Kane and them told you clearly. General Kane and the U.S., first of all, the U.S. intelligence, the CIA told you that the Iranians were not about to acquire a nuclear weapon, even though they had a whole lot of enriched uranium and they could acquire a nuclear weapon. I could see why President Trump could dispute that. But even if they do acquire a nuclear weapon, The CIA also told President Trump that they didn't have the capability of hitting the continental United States with a ballistic missile with a nuclear warhead attached to the front of that ballistic missile. They can't hit us anyway. But President Trump still, he wanted to, they can't have a nuclear weapon and I'm doing this for the world. That's fine. That's whatever. But in my opinion, your biggest problem is not Iran having a nuclear weapon today. That's not your biggest problem. Do not go into negotiations thinking that you're going to get anywhere with Iran and come out on public. I'm saying we didn't see. Once why I have said that when I get on it, I say the same things over and over. Because if I could get you to focus on it, this is how you're gonna be able to get this done for real. Because the American people are skeptical that you could get it done for real. Because we keep hearing you negotiating with Iran, and the only thing that come out them negotiations is some fighting. It's some Tomahawk missiles. It's some hellfire. That's what I'm saying. So why would we think that this time you finna sit down in negotiations? It would be different. I'm telling you how to do it. I ain't gonna waste the time. I'm not gonna get the American people hopes up. If you think you could keep controlling the straits, we going straight back to the bombs. If you think you could control the straits, we going to the missiles. I'm not gonna sit here and parade and wait for gas prices to go down, because them people ain't gonna understand you. They ain't gonna see that you serious. You need to show them, even if it take another 6 months of you bombing them. They cannot control the straits unequivocally. You cannot control the straits. That's the problem. I'm not doing nothing for TV. I got General Kane come in here and say you cannot control the straits, and make your next words your best words, huh? Because I'm saying we can negotiate some money under the table so Fox News don't hear about it. We can negotiate some money on the amount to give you compensation for some of the money that you lost in toll fees for you controlling the straits. Maybe that's your sticking point. But I'm saying, because they looking at $200 million a day in toll fees. It's hard to replace that. Cause you talking about giving me 400 billion, Ghost, that's a whole lot of money, but we can make that in charging toll fees in some months. We could get filthy rich and take over the world. You know, the IRGC and the mullahs over there, they plot no pinky in the brain trying to take over the world. These terrorists trying to take over the world. If we can control the straits, we can become rich as our great Satan America. And that's the sticking point now. So I'm saying you're going to have to negotiate to give them something for them not controlling the straits. That's bottom line. They might not be wanting to give that up. They might say, okay, come back with the bombs. Let's get back to it. But you got to have a way that whenever you smack them, that's why President Trump saying hitting the bridges and hitting them in a way they never been hit before, because he understands that. He got to get them to see what they need to see, and they looking at that large amount of money to be able to control the Strait of Hormuz. See, Iran, from in my opinion, from the memorandum of understanding moving forward, they wrong. Because they not going to be able to beat the United States, number one, in a prolonged conflict. Number two, as the conflict goes on, you are risking the chances for NATO, and you are risking the chances for it becoming a larger conflict. I'm saying the United Kingdom, they threaten the United Kingdom. They threaten the Ukrainians hit one. And I'm saying not Saudi Arabia. And then I'm saying they did an attack with then Egypt. And I'm saying as the conflict and the situation goes on, you are just making it an opportunity to become a bigger. I don't see how the Europeans don't get in this situation, or other nations get involved in this situation, as it favors the Americans. It favors President Trump, especially if they want. I'm talking about if the Iranians cannot control the strait. That's what you don't realize, what you don't get. I'm saying if they do, that looks bad for President Trump, and that helps the Democrats, but that looks bad for Americans. Let me tell you what's gonna happen. It don't matter if it's President Trump's fault. It don't matter if you saying, when you realize what it means for Iran to control the Strait, it don't matter if it was President Trump's fault and the Republicans will never win another election again. It's gonna diminish what America is. And see, that hurts Republicans, Democrats, and nonpartisan independents like me. That hurts everybody. That's what you don't realize. You might think, okay, so we want President Trump to look bad. We want, yeah, all that's fine and dandy. But I'm saying, if you leave with Iran controlling the straits, I'm saying what y'all thought, thank you for the donation, what y'all thought President Obama did was bad in helping Iran become powerful. I'm saying, I don't see how Israel can allow Iran to control the straits in the end. I'm saying that's worse than you're financing Putin's war right now. Because that's what happened. They kept buying oil from Putin. And they enriched Russia. And he rebuilt his military, trying to go back to USSR days. So I'm saying, if you let Iran control the Strait of Hormuz, and you let them make millions of dollars per ship off of oil, what I'm trying to say, what you think finna happen? That's enriching them way more than President Obama ever could have dreamed of doing. That's why Iran, listen, there's a reason why they won't take an opportunity to get $1 trillion and be reintroduced on the world stage again. There's a reason why, like selling oil, it don't matter how much Israel hates you. It don't matter how much the United States hates you. It don't matter how much people hate you. I'm saying this is your opportunity to get your bread, Iran. And they know this, the name of the game is the bread, but we've been talking about it, and you see how I think, man, live in front of you. They're not... They keep starting to fight again over the strait. They want to control the strait. That's the main sticking point. So for you to be successful in the negotiations, you got to convince the Iranians that it's in their best interest to lose interest in making $200 million a day off of controlling the Strait of Hormuz. When you think at it from that perspective, you can blame that on President Trump. Nobody but him. Because he had to see the dangers of attacking Iran due to the Strait of Hormuz. And I'm saying those dangers, every warning that he said, I hear, listen, Fox News and the Republicans, they good at spin now. But Fox News and Republicans ain't just good at spin, the Democrats good at spin too. But what I'm saying, Fox, they trying to spin it. This how they trying to spin it, that like President Trump, he had the courage that all the other presidents didn't have since Jimmy Carter to get at Iran. Okay, if you want to spin it like that, I'm nonpartisan, you could spin it like that. Maybe President Trump did have the courage to get at Iran. But the reason why, let's count after Jimmy Carter. President Reagan, President Bush, the first one in the CIA, you feel me? President Clinton, then President Bush, his son, he fought a bunch of wars, but never Iran. President Obama, President Trump in his first term, you tore up the deal, but you didn't attack Iran. So listen, Republicans, I'm telling you, I'll dismantle your argument if you argue against me. The Republicans are saying that, hey, every president since Jimmy Carter didn't have the courage to go after Iranians. Is it courage or is it common sense? Because President Trump was one of those presidents since Jimmy Carter in his first term that did not go after Iran. Was it because he lacked courage in his first term or he had common sense? He tore up President Obama's deal, but he didn't militarily attack Iran in his first term. And every president who decided not to do that is because of that Strait of Hormuz. You created that problem that was not there, and we cannot argue about that. It's undisputable. The Strait of Hormuz was not a problem. The Iranians would have never dreamt about trying to take over the Strait of Hormuz because they feared the American military, and President Trump played that card way too early. He decided to play that card. You could try to spin it like that's courage, but that's not courage. When you're looking at, we have a problem, the Strait of Hormuz now. And how can you negotiate terrorists out of taking 200 million? The Iranians are, think about, somebody calculate $200 million a day in toll fees that they think they could get off the strait. It's a lot of money. The Iranians are looking at the strait as a cash pot. And they realize one thing for certain and two things for sure: it would take Americans decades to stop them from being able to launch a rocket shoulder grenade, whatever, or RPG. 200 of them they just got for China, to be able to launch a rocket into the strait if they didn't have no more drones. But they got a whole lot of drones and a whole lot of missiles. So it's going to take not 1 year, President Trump. It would take years for the United States to stop that capability. The President Trump and them coming out and telling us that the Iranians have lost the capability, or lost 75, most of their capability, whatever words they using, of attacking America. Americans are believing that. You understand that? Americans are thinking that's true. That the Iranians, okay, we dropped all these bombs, even dropped 14,000, 15,000, $2 million bombs, and I'm saying American people have died, and now you obliterated their nuclear sites, and you accomplished your military goals, because the military goals was to stop them from projecting power beyond their own borders, and they killing American soldiers in foreign countries. So you have not accomplished that military goal. All that stuff, ain't none of that stuff really been accomplished. But I understand President Trump negotiations and peace. I'm saying that's the right move, is negotiations and peace. That's best for Israel. That's best for America. That's best for Iran. That's best for everybody, negotiations and peace. So I understand negotiations and peace. I understand all of that. But I'm saying it's got to be successful negotiations and peace. I'm saying to this point, it's been unsuccessful negotiations and peace. That's what I'm saying. How can you get to successful negotiations and peace with terrorists who are attempting to control the Strait of Hormuz, which would be a cash pot for them? And they know one thing for certain and two things for sure: it would take you at least a decade to be able to secure it. How you gonna stop them from sending a Shahed drone at you? When you take that capability from you, they gonna be, how they see drones from them. You see, because America has dropped all these bombs, and those capabilities are still not gone completely. It's not diminished. It's gonna take a long time, y'all. That's what I'm trying to tell y'all, to completely diminish them capabilities. Forget what President Trump and them telling you. It's going to take a while. A lot of money. It's going to take a lot of American blood, a lot of American treasure. And the Iranians know that. But I'm saying, I'm telling you, more than a religious ideology, because you can't even practice your religious ideology really without no money if you're a country like Iran. So forget religious ideology. Stay focused that the name of the game is that dollar. They want that money. So I'm saying they had $1 trillion on the table, and even with $1 trillion on the table, they wouldn't accept it. They wouldn't accept $1 trillion. You see what I'm saying? They wouldn't accept $1 trillion on the table. So if you don't accept $1 trillion, why not? Because controlling the Strait of Hormuz is a few trillion a year. That's why. It's more money. And that's where your stick up at. That's where your hang up at. Is that Strait of Hormuz and the amount of money that the Iranians are going to be able to achieve from controlling the strait. Strategizing with Ghost this morning. So how you get to the end of this conflict, you gotta make the Iranians think or offer them something in exchange for giving up the control of the Strait of Hormuz. Get your bright and brilliant people and get creative. That's the strategy. Because you need to go, if you don't come out of there with no kind of peace deal that does not involve the Iranians giving up control of the strait, because that's not a peace deal. If they don't say, you just like he did the first time or second time, he need to keep that same thing up, because that's why they understand that that Iran's not going to have a nuclear weapon. That's why they understand that. You feel what I'm saying? They understand Iran's not going to have a nuclear weapon because they're not giving up, like, because President Trump, in the middle of talking to him, he bombed them. They see President Trump serious about that. He need to get like that about the strait. Walk in the room, you cannot control the straits. If you don't understand that, the next 5 seconds, bomb him in the middle of talking to him. Do the same thing you did the first time to him. Just pop him in the mouth. You gotta make them understand some kind of way. Negotiate with them. However you gonna do it. I'm saying you could pay me the money and I could tell you we could get deeper with this now. I could break down a plan for you. But if I'm not getting paid, I'm saying I'm just giving you common sense. This common sense. Practicality. Strategy. Common sense is my biggest weapon. This is how you get over this problem. You got to understand what is the Iranians' goals. It's got to be money. I got $1 trillion on the table. They don't want $1 trillion because they get more money to control the strait, number one. And number two, they know it's going to take you years and a lot of treasure before you really can control the straits, if you ever can really control the straits. How you going to stop a man in his own country who cannot stand you from launching? He could throw a bomb into the strait. It might not hit the ship. It just might disrupt traffic. Their goal is just to disrupt the traffic in the straits. To have the ships too scared to sail through the straits. That's their goal. We on the upper west side of Manhattan, man. You know what I'm saying? That's 1 hour and 12 minutes. Me bringing you my strategy. You know what I'm saying? Strategizing with Ghost Rider, the first episode, man. You know what I'm saying? Like, guys, I'm going to be off tomorrow and Wednesday, so we not on tour no more, so I don't have to try to get you 220 videos in 90 days. Strategizing with Ghost Rider, probably going to do about 3 or 4 months or whatever. However long, you know what I'm saying? But we switched to Strategizing with Ghost Rider because if you guys don't know, I'm an independent paralegal, freelance paralegal. I got cases up here in the Southern District of New York in federal court. You know what I'm saying? The New York Supreme Court. So I got to litigate. It's litigation time. Tuesday and Wednesday, we not streaming this week. But we will be live on Thursday and Friday at 7 a.m. You know what I'm saying? And then on Saturday, we live at 8 a.m. And we're going to talk about the mystery of Nolan Wells. Guilty or Innocence on Saturday, episode number 5. Yes, indeed. We bringing it back. And then next week, guys, our regular schedule, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday, we live at 7 a.m. Eastern, strategizing with Ghost Rider on politics. And every other Saturday, we doing a guilty or innocent. So moving forward into August, that is the schedule, Legal Wars Live here on YouTube. If you guys have not liked the video, I ask that y'all double tap the screen for me. Like the video, subscribe to the channel. Make sure y'all hit that notification bell. We want to thank YouTube. You know what I'm saying? Always providing a great platform for us as Americans to have a lively discussion about our future, the most important political events that's going on in our country, but we are not political. Not all of us. A lot of you guys are. You Republicans and Democrats, you old political people. Non-political, non-partisan, independent ghostwriter, a patriot, a disabled black veteran of the United States military, U.S. Army. Yes, indeed. An American, a traveler, going around speaking and talking to my American counterparts. I love y'all down there below in the comments. Love having these conversations. about our great country. We trying to preserve American greatness for the next 80 years. That's the goals. We got to make clear, defined goals with clearly defined objectives and work hard to achieve it through unity and promoting peace. Guys, Hannah says Trump is an embarrassment. Man, I don't know, man. That sounds like that's political, and I don't really get into political stuff. Now, if you said that President Trump's handling of A, B, C, D, E, F, G is an embarrassment, then I could talk with you on that. We could discuss that. Is President Trump's handling of the Iran war is an embarrassment? I'm saying that is a valid conversation to have. Is valid. I'm saying whatever pain that we went through with Iran, is it necessary? Compared to the way Obama handled Iran, that's what you got to look at. Look at how Obama handled that situation and look at President Trump. The Bible says it's not wise to compare yourselves among yourselves, but this is something totally different. This is like a sporting situation, a situation with sports. You see what I'm saying? We comparing Drew Brees and we comparing Tom Brady or Peyton Manning. You know what I'm saying? Comparing the way that President Obama handled this situation and President Trump, I'm saying the way President Obama handled it just looks better to the majority of the American people. The majority of the American people don't care what's in that deal. They don't care who President Obama, they don't even know that President Obama, they didn't even know President Obama negotiated a deal with Iran until President Trump tore it up and we went to war and started talking about it. They don't care nothing about what's in no Iran nuclear deal. That's what Sean Hannity and Jesse Walters are talking about. That the American people, the majority of them, don't care about. All they care about is that President Obama didn't go to war with Iran. He didn't have higher gas prices. He didn't have higher inflation. That's a legitimate argument that you can have. Regardless of how President Trump handled the situation, I guess it does matter how it turned out, but you lost 18 Americans' lives. You had 600 injured. I heard Iran hit an American base. It wasn't really reported, but I heard it had mass American casualty. About 45 Americans were injured in one attack. I'm saying that's stuff that did not have to happen. If you saying it did have to happen, you gotta prove how it did have to happen, being non-political and fair. President Trump has to prove how it did have to happen, and up to this point, I hadn't seen the proof. They don't have a ballistic missile that could hit Washington, D.C. If they do, they would have shot it by now, and it'd get shot down in space anyway. It'd get shot down over the Atlantic Ocean anyway. They don't have a ballistic missile that could hit New York City. If they did, they would have shot it, and it'd get shot down over the Atlantic Ocean anyway. It'd get shot down by NORAD anyway. That's what I'm trying to tell you. So how you a danger to me if you ain't got a bullet that could hit me? You ain't got a bullet that could reach me. I'm over here, I'm saying, we hear about them trying, this is news, guys, trying to, I don't even know if it's factual, if I believe it, but Iran attacking a water plant in Minnesota, or attacking, or hacking into American infrastructure in Minnesota. You see what I'm saying? But they can't hit the homeland. Imagine you fighting an opponent, he ain't got a punch that could reach you. So as long as you stay out of his punching distance, he can't hit you. In order for him to hit you, you got to get into where he at. You got to go to his home. So I'm saying, if you just walk up to him and punch him, it look like you started that. I'm saying it's common sense. I break it down into little kids so a little baby can understand it. He ain't got a lick that could hit you. He can't reach you. You understand that? The American people not stupid. You saying they finna have a nuclear weapon? We done heard that with Iraq. I'm saying that's a legitimate argument that he made some embarrassing moves in Iran. That's a legitimate argument. for attacking Iran. That's why I told you, from him making the decision up to the memorandum of understanding, he gonna lose that. Republicans, I hate to tell you that, break your heart, he already lost that argument with the American people. They already gonna punish him for going to war with Iran. I don't care what you say. He gonna get punished for that. I'm talking about not by his party, maybe, even though only 78% of Republicans support. Think about it. You can't even get 80% of Republicans to support this war. It's not a popular war. It wasn't a great decision. But either way you spin that, because you could spin it either way from either side, either way you spin that, I'm still saying that, like, the people are going to look at this war or look at this situation and they're going to say that it was avoidable. The cause. If you going to bomb or you snatching Maduro, that don't seem like it cost America much, if anything. If you bombed Iran the first time, that don't seem like it cost America much or anything. This situation, it cost America a lot. You could say it's not, 18 lives might not be a lot to you, but that is a lot to the American people. If that was your son or your daughter dying, it would be everything. It would seem like the end of the world for you if that was your son or your daughter. That might not be only 18 families. You looking at 600 more Americans were injured. And it don't have to be my son or my daughter. The average American citizen, 50 years old or under, using average wisdom and understanding, we could see that, hey, man, is that avoidable? Because I'm saying President Obama compared himself with President Trump, compared himself. He did it with President Obama by tearing up his deal. Well, President Trump, you tore up his deal. What you replaced it with? What you replaced it with is not acceptable. Not acceptable to 68% of Americans. We talking about almost 70% of Americans disapprove of President Trump's handling of this war. And we talking about Fox News polls, by the way. I'm not just using a Democrat's polls when I tell, or Democrat leaning, or y'all talk about the liberal media. I'll give you a Fox News poll. I'll give you a Rasmussen poll. I'll give you conservative polls to show you that the majority, how do you become president? By winning the majority. How do you become winning Congress? By winning the majority. How do you win any election in America? You get power by winning the majority of the votes. You can win. Like I said, President Trump 2 times did not get the majority of the votes. That's why they probably don't understand that, his lucky self. He became president. He did get the majority of the votes. But I'm saying he didn't get over 50% of the voters to vote for him, neither time. That's what I mean by the majority, a clear majority. I don't mean you getting 48% to VP Harris's 45 or 44%. That's not what I mean. I mean you getting over 50% of the American voters to vote for you. He didn't get that neither time. But the majority of the candidates who become, because you see the presidency is the electoral college. The majority of the candidates who get their power, they need the majority of the voters to vote for them. If there's three candidates, then you're not gonna get over 50%, but there's a lot of races that's over two, it's only 2 candidates. I'm looking at the plurality of the voters. Where are the plurality of the voters vote? If it's a presidential election, if it's a Senate race in Maine, or if it's a congressional race in New York, in the upper state New York, yeah. I'm looking at who's getting the majority. Where are the majority of the voters leaning? National issues, local issues, where is the majority? That's the question. And it's like these politicians only focus on, say it for me, y'all, let's talk about special interests. They're representing the interests of a few, whether it's the rich, whether it's the oil companies, whether it's a car maker. It's people who give them or donate their money to their campaigns, and they represent their interests. They're not representing the interests of the majority of the American people. That's what this is about. Guys, you can argue whichever way you want to, and you could think there is a good portion, almost 40% of people, support President Trump in this war. That's nearly 4 out of 10 people. That's a lot of people. To me, that's way too many people who support this war. Because I think it was a bad decision. That's my opinion. If he wanted to bomb them, he should have did like he did with Maduro in Venezuela, or like he bombed them the first time. He should have, with them aircraft carriers, you hit them for 3 weeks and you stop. You could come back a month later and hit them again for 3 weeks and stop. I'm saying I don't think you sitting there prolonged fighting a conflict with them, that's going to kill you politically. The American people are not for you fighting any sort of foreign war or foreign conflict in the Middle East. They're not for that. They made that clear, especially the voters under 50 who are struggling, and they hear Democratic socialists like Zoran Mandami promising to give the people stuff. They see the 5% billionaire wealth tax in California promising them give them $3,000 a piece. That's what they were looking for. That's what they were hoping for when they voted for President Trump. They thought President Trump was finna give them a stimulus check. It had materialized like that. Instead, a lot of these people making less than $50,000 a year, because we talking about millions of Americans. We talking about over 10 million Americans, a large voting bloc making less than $50,000 a year. Instead, they got higher insurance prices. They got higher gas prices from a president who never had gas over $3 a gallon in 5 years as president. His whole first term, gas never hit $3 a gallon under President Trump. That goes to show what their expectations was when they voted for him. You see what I'm saying? The voters didn't vote. They voted against President Biden. That's what they voted against. It's easier, and I heard someone say this yesterday, and I agree with this, to vote against something to vote for something. They voted against President Biden instead of voting for VP Harris. They decided to vote against President Biden even though he wasn't on the ballot, instead of voting for VP Harris. That's how that went. That's how President Trump became president. But I'm saying now, President Trump, you president, the American people are expecting something from you that to this point they have not seen or they have not gotten. And that's factual. To this point, President Trump, the American people are expecting something from you that they have not seen or they have not gotten. And that's the majority of the American people, and that's factual. It don't matter what you say, that's just what it is. And that's why when he says that President Trump is an embarrassment, you guys don't understand that you non-political people are going to give all of our power in the United States away if we let the Iranians control the Strait of Hormuz. That's deadly, not only for, that's what's on the table. You attacking Iran, Fox News, what's on the table is Iran controlling the strait or partial control of the strait. That is counterproductive to your entire argument. Because if you give them control of the strait, they'll make way more money than President Obama ever could have gave them. Ever. And they know that. And President Trump know that too. And no one's talking about that. I hadn't heard this on CNN yet. Y'all need to get on this now. I hadn't heard this yet now because Fox News over there with that propaganda. Iran, if they get control over the straits, they gonna end up with more money, with 100 times more money than President Obama could have ever. Them controlling the straits, they gonna be the dominant power in the Middle East. That's what China wants. China wants Iran controlling the straits. Yeah. They probably ain't even gonna have to pay no fees. Russia wants Iran controlling the strait. Yeah. That'll be a ginormous embarrassment to President Trump, to the Republicans. I don't think I'm gonna tell you, see, y'all don't have nobody like Ghost on CNN or on Fox News. This is how it's gonna hurt you long term. Because we know it's common sense that it'll hurt America politically. America won't look as strong militarily, as strong as a nuclear power, as strong as a military power, a superpower, economic power. If you go to the Middle East and you decide to mess with the Straits, first of all, that got gas prices high. If you had to do it, you leave Iran in control of the Straits, that's going to make you look weak. Iran would have definitely won. Because Iran, their benefit, it benefits them more to control the Straits. Them controlling the Straits make them richer. It makes them stronger. It gives them more power. They're controlling 20% of the world's energy. That's what's at stake. Iran having control of 20% of the world's energy. If President Trump leaves, withdraws them aircraft carriers today, he will be a complete embarrassment, not only for the United States, that's going to kill the Republicans' argument. The American people won't trust the Republican Party ever again on foreign policy. You leaving Iran in control of the Straits. That's a problem that America's going to have to deal with in 20 years. Against a much stronger Iran that you went against and lost, who's much richer, and a much weaker America. That's what's at stake. That's what I'm saying. And President Trump will be long gone. Whether you put him in jail, he'll be dead possibly in the next 20 years, we think. Within the next 20 years. He ain't even going to be thinking about him no more. But you're still going to be dealing with a very, very wealthy and rich Iran who's controlling 20% of the world's energy. That's what's at stake. See, in that argument, if any scenario where Iran achieves control of the Strait at the end of any kind of deal, if Iran is collecting money off tolls off the Strait of Hormuz, we talking hundreds of millions of dollars daily. If Iran is you allow them to do that. President Obama, I heard Fox said that he put $450 million, and President Trump said this one. And several different Boeings took all the seats out, emptied the banks, $450 million flew it to the Iranians. What I'm saying, they could make that in 2 or 3 days if they control the Straits. That's how horrible. If the argument, listen to me. I'm giving you the Republican argument. If your Republican argument is correct, and President Obama giving money to the Iranians strengthened them, he only gave them, according to y'all, a few hundred million. I'll give you 400 billion times 10. Let's say President Obama gave him 400 billion. Okay, if President Obama gave them 400 billion, still the Iranians could get that in a few months if they control the Straits. Imagine what they'll have in 20 years. I'm talking about you gonna make them that's dangerous. For the most dangerous thing for Iran, I don't think Iran getting a nuclear weapon, because I think Israel will be able to deal with that if the Mossad is on. Israel should be watching Iran at all times. I got eyes on your nuclear facilities and sites at all times, regardless of what's going on. Even when I shake your hand and get a peace deal, I got eyes on your nuclear facility. You get that? So I'm saying, like, they should be able to catch when Iran get a nuclear. Well, it's like a hurricane. You get a warning. Iran controlling the Straits is way more dangerous than Israel, because I'm saying they're going to get so many ballistic missiles. They're going to get so many drones. I'm saying, Iran, you're going to fundamentally change the power. The Persian Empire will have risen again if they control the Straits. That would be a huge embarrassment for America. That would be a victory for China. That would be a victory for Russia and a loss for America. Imagine President Trump saying that Ukraine is about to lose to Russia. He talks to Europe about how weak Europe is. He backs up out that situation, and Europe steps forward, and Europe and Ukraine start defeating Russia. And President Trump, fighting a proxy war against China in Iran, backs out of the Strait and allow them to control the Strait of Hormuz. and China wins against America and Ukraine beats Russia. It's unbelievable. Iran wins against America and Ukraine beats Russia. The underdogs winning. It's unbelievable. But you can't allow that to happen. That whole fight is over the Strait of Hormuz. Forget the nuclear part no more. I'm saying, I said the #1 goal he went in there is to fight the nuclear war. So yeah, give me the nuclear dust. And part of the deal, I don't even have to make a deal. I'll just give you billions of dollars under the table for the nuclear dust. If President Trump comes, if you know he a TV dude, so the nuclear dust is back in America and he's in front of the nuclear dust saying he removed it. Even though President Trump, Brian C., what's up? He says Marco Rubio 2028. Y'all all like the, y'all double tap his donation. If any of you guys want to donate to the channel, you guys hit the button with the $sign in it. You guys get what I'm saying though, Brian C.? If President Trump do a news conference in front of the nuclear dust, even though President Obama removed 97% of the nuclear dust from Iran as well, I'm saying it's going to look like President Trump accomplished something by removing the nuclear dust. That's how it's going to look. It's going to look like he did something. Because he tore up the deal. Listen, it's an argument over how Iran rebuilt the nuclear dust that President Obama removed. The argument is that when President Trump tore up the deal, I'm going to tell you the truth what happened. President Trump tore up the deal. When he tore up the deal, the money that President Obama had gave them, yeah, it was a, but President Trump, you can't wipe your hands. You tore up a deal. You stopped the inspectors from going in there. So as soon as you tore up the deal, it seemed like he should have been bombing them and doing what he did in this right now, his first term. Because when you tore up the deal, in order for you to stop them from getting more nuclear dust, you would have had to deal with that right now. Yeah, President Obama did give them a bunch of money, but you tore up the deal. It works in unison. That's the problem. It's not working in unison. It's too political. President Obama, he did give them money, but that's the same thing you finna do, President Trump, the same thing. I'm going to give you money because you cannot make a deal with them without giving them money. I'm going to give them money in exchange for me giving you money. I'm going to have to be able to watch you because we can't trust you, Iran. Ain't nobody trust you. We know what you're going to be trying to do. So I'm going to give you money, but you're going to have to allow inspectors in. That's what President Obama did. When President Trump tore the deal, that money that President Obama had given them, they used that money to start enriching nuclear dust again. So it's like President Obama, the Europeans, that's probably why they watching they like, why you tore up the deal, President Trump? You just seeing what's your consequences for tearing up the deal. Yeah, we did give them money, but we had inspectors in there to watch them. You tore up the deal and walked away. So the money we gave them, they took that money and started right back to the nuclear dust. Iran has figured out that nuclear dust or nuclear material is worth a lot of money to the United States. They figured that out. So you could say that might be President Obama's fault. That's about the only thing you could blame him for. But when you tear up the deal, what you gonna think they gonna do with the money? We gonna go get some more nuclear dust. So when the Americans come back, we have leverage. We have something to negotiate with. That nuclear dust is leverage from them. You see what I'm saying? But now they got something even greater to negotiate over, the Strait of Hormuz. That's even more leverage. And the Strait of Hormuz is worth more money than the nuclear dust. I could get $1 trillion off the nuclear dust. That's already on the table. Why in the world the Iranian strategy, why you keep walking away from all this money on the table? The Gulf states give you $400 billion. You finna put your oil back on the world stage. They unfreezing the $24 billion. He trying to let you get as much money as you can, and you walking away from that because those fees they would get from controlling the Strait of Hormuz is more than the money you got on the table. You gotta concentrate on why them negotiations failing. That's the only way you're gonna get them to work. Whatever it takes to get them to a place where those negotiations work. So you understand that. You need somebody straightforward military man that the IRGC gonna take serious and come in there and just straightforward drop it on the table. You cannot control the strait, unequivocally. That's why we gonna keep fighting. Listen, I thought y'all had this worked out. Vice President J.D. Vance, he said we not gonna release all the money at one time, the sanctions, we gonna do it little by little. I'm saying that blockade stay on until you sign a deal that say you can't control the strait. And if you violate this deal, I'm not gonna try to get no peace with you no more. We just gonna have to thug it out. And I'm saying the United States need to have those plans already on the table. They already need to know and expect Iran to not honor any deal. You need to have your contingencies, you need to have it mapped out, and you need to have it planned out. No more inept, no more incompetent stuff. You need to get real and serious about bringing this situation to an end. And if you don't know how to do it, hire somebody who know how to bring it to an end. For real, for real. That's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna know the roads that we need to take. And I'm gonna go get somebody who's smarter than me in this right here to be able to do the job. I'm not finna be, I'm the art of the deal maker, and you over here trying to negotiate with terrorists. President Trump, you are way out of your league trying to negotiate with the Iranians, and we see that you are. President Obama, he went and got the Europeans, he went and got nuclear, I'm talking about nuclear scientists to negotiate these deals. Men who don't have no skin in the game. And President Trump over there trying to negotiate with the Iranians like he on some kind of TV show. You feel what I'm saying? This ain't no TV show. You gotta understand, baby, this is not television. This is real life. We not playing chess. This is real life. And I think that's the situation that's going on. Somebody says, EJ twice, listen, I'm finna time you out, EJ, unless you could give me some proof of that about President Obama. Because President Obama wasn't on no Epstein list. So EJ, you better drop some proof of that in the stream, or I'm gonna time you out for at least an hour, man. President Obama ain't on the Epstein list. How you gonna say an Epstein list with some of President Obama's cabinet is on it? There's a man who served in a high-ranking position in president cabinet that is on that Epstein list. President Obama's name wasn't on it. Nowhere. So you can't come in here and try to scar him, because there's a lot of politicians, former presidents, more Democrats than Republicans are on that list. But President Obama, he wasn't on that list. I think I was one of the first people who acknowledged that President Obama was not on that list. Facts. It's a lot of American politicians who on that list. President Obama wasn't one of them. It's people in his cabinet who was on that list. President Obama wasn't one of them. So EJ, you can't, I don't see you coming back with nothing, EJ. We're going to give EJ a second to come back with something, EJ. You can't be coming in here. You could do that a lot of places. But not when I'm in the comments. You can't come in here and just put dirt on somebody's name. I told y'all I'm not political. I don't have Trump derangement syndrome or Obama derangement syndrome. If President Trump name on the list, then his name on that list. Hey, can I say President Trump? Like if me just talking off the cuff, anybody could say anything. But can I say, like, in a serious conversation that President Trump is I don't do that stuff, because he hadn't been convicted of molesting any children. But his name being on that list, you could take that for what that's for. President Obama's name not on that list, you could take that for what that's for. I'm saying, what we gonna talk? Our feelings, or we gonna talk facts and reality? We gonna talk our feelings. Some of y'all don't have that spirit of discernment. God gave me that spirit of discernment. I could discern things out the clear air. Ask the people that know me. You ain't got to tell me nothing. I've seen enough, I've been through enough, and I know enough. Okay, so you cleared it up. He pardoned. He pardoned. He pardoned. But I'm saying, EJ, you need to continue to show us some evidence of that. You could say he pardoned. I'm saying y'all got to control y'all words and what y'all say. I'm not a political person. So I don't want to hear you just throwing some allegations against President Trump or President Obama. Neither one of them. But President Obama made $2.6 billion in a year. Let the Democrats in Congress next year investigate whether or not he committed corruption. I hear some people on CNN and people on MSNBC saying he committed corruption. How you know that? And if he committed corruption, where your proof at? Put your proof in the chat. Let the people who investigate that. There's a time and place for everything. But you walking around with hate in your heart and jealousy in your heart, as President Trump made $2.6 billion as a businessman that the American people knew he was. Y'all don't understand, his businesses made hundreds of millions of dollars before he became president and during his presidency, and they will continue. So I'm saying him making $2.5 billion, yeah, that seemed like a lot. Yeah, whatever you want to say. Let Congress, let the investigators do their job. That's just like President Trump trying to negotiate with the Iranians. He's trying to do somebody else's job. That's not his job. He need to let the professionals who know what they're doing do their jobs, and that's the problem. So let the Democrats investigate President Trump properly and do their constitutional duty and determine whether the president of the United States committed corruption before you just get out there and start saying, oh, he made $2 billion as a president, he corrupt. I don't do that stuff. That's how y'all strategy is off. That's why if you go to the Republican preacher, Mr. Preacher Man, your strategy is off. Because you got a Republican vision, a tent. You only got 39% of Americans or less. Because you looking at it from that tent. I'm saying, and the Democrat might have 33% of Americans or less because they're looking at it from that tent. I'm looking at it from a red, white, and blue tent. I'm looking at your blue tent, I'm looking at the red tent, and I'm independent, so I got a white tent that I look at too. And I mix it all in a pot, and that's what your answer is. You taking the Republican argument and the Democratic argument, and between the two arguments, you get a resolution or a solution. That's the way this government is made to work. It was set up on a debate. Tell me where I'm wrong at. I might get some facts wrong sometimes. I might have said I never seen President Obama remove nuclear dust from Iran, even though he removed 97% of the nuclear dust from Iran. But I'm saying, like, the American people just have so little knowledge. Y'all political bluffs, y'all CNN people, when y'all hear me say wrong stuff, sometimes y'all correct me. I don't have a producer, y'all. And I don't study the stuff like I should. But I'm saying y'all CNN people will hear me say this and y'all might correct me or try to correct me, and you might be right in your corrections. And President Obama might have had the inspectors remove 97% nuclear dust from Iran. But what I was saying with President Trump, I know he a TV person. We don't know nothing about that deal. We ain't heard nothing about that deal. We don't know nothing, or we ain't heard nothing about that deal. We do know about that deal, and we did hear about that deal, but the American people were just so unconcerned, and that's not hatred on President Obama. That's because that's the way he handled it. That's a good thing. It's a good thing. You doing negotiations with Iran, the American people don't even need to know the details. Only the political bluffs like CNN on Fox News. Fox News, this a bad deal. The American people don't care. Not the plurality, not the majority. They don't care what kind of details in Iran. Oh, you told me they don't have a nuclear weapon. Oh, you told me the only way you can know that they don't have a nuclear weapon is if you sending inspectors in. So you sending inspectors in, they don't have a nuclear weapon. The American people don't care nothing else about the rest of the deal. They done went on about their day. The only time they start caring is when the gas prices and inflation, that's their pocketbooks. You see this woman, everybody walking by me, they gonna start caring when the gas prices get high. But half of these people walking by me, or 80% of them, especially the women, especially the younger people, they don't care nothing about no deal you got in Iran. That's what Lindsey Graham cared about. And you caring about or focusing on the wrong things, or have you given the wrong advice that's gonna hurt America. Lindsey Graham is a big contributor of advice that got President Trump to attack Iran. And I'm saying, if we go back, you gonna go down in history as this Fox News. If we go to a world where let's say there's two Straits of Hormuz. Let's say there's a strait off the coast of Oman and there's a strait off the coast of Iran. And Iran now, instead of making $200 million a day, let's say they make about $50-60 million a day. That's still a whole lot of money. The world changed after President Trump attacked Iran. He can't have that. It's got to go back to pre-war levels. If not, he lost. Y'all gonna end up looking like clowns, and President Obama gonna end up looking like a complete hero who knew everything he was talking about. If you said President Trump was smart for attacking the mullahs, he had the courage to do what no president since Jimmy Carter did. I heard that from a Republican strategist. What I'm saying is, if the cost of that is the Iranians controlling the strait, that was foolish. And every other president, President Reagan, President Bush, President Clinton, President Bush, President Obama, President Trump, even you, one time, President Biden, every other president before President Trump and this administration, every other president who decided not to attack Iran due to the strait, if Iran ends up controlling the strait in the end, they look like geniuses, and President Trump looks like a fool. The only way President Trump could look like a genius at the end of this situation is if it goes back to and even if it goes back to the way it was before the war, it still was a cost paid for fighting them in the first place. He has to get at least a deal as good as President Obama's. He has to get that. And Iran is vying for a deal much more, and that's control of the straits. They would have never realized how much money they could make if they controlled the straits. They probably had it calculated already. But they would have never, because the Iranians aren't stupid. They know how hard it is to control the straits militarily. I'm talking about, you talking about diminishing them for real, that would take years and years to seriously diminish their military capabilities would take, I'm talking years. It will not be an easy task. It's not an easy thing to do, I could assure you that. Not whatsoever. It would take years for them to completely diminish their nuclear capabilities. Hannibal says Mitch needs to go. Well, Hannibal, I'll give you permission to get rid of him. Obama listened to the generals and the admiral. That's another thing. And he said Trump is a BB, and I can't repeat that word he said, but Hannibal, the stuff he's saying is true. President Trump's own intelligence, the Central Intelligence Agency, it told him that the Iranians, number one, was not interested in developing a nuclear weapon. I still would be scared with them having all that nuclear dust. But that's what the CIA's assessment was. And number two, the CIA's assessment is they don't have a ballistic missile that can even hit London, yet alone Washington, D.C. or New York City. So their overall assessment was Iran, pre-war, was not a threat to the United States. Iran was a threat to Israel. Iran was a threat to its Middle Eastern neighbors. They have been strengthening themselves, and they have, y'all see their ballistic missile capabilities. So their capabilities to strike their Middle Eastern neighbor or to become the dominant power in the Middle East. You don't want a dominant power in the Middle East that hates America controlling, that is allies. And America was going after China and Russia too by attacking Iran. We talked about that yesterday. Episode number 100, it's on YouTube. at 2 p.m. Eastern from yesterday, okay, of the Tax Rich Tour. We talked about that. The greater implications of the war, the West versus the East. What I'm saying is, as we got to support Ukraine, Ukraine has to beat Putin, has to beat Russia, a new Cold War. I'm saying we have to beat Iran. We cannot let them control the Straits. That's a loss. That's a clearly defined loss. If we leave the Straits of Hormuz with Iran in control, that's a clear defined loss. American diminished power on the world stage. What conflict you gonna go to try to attack? If you go to attack Iran, first think about how we left Afghanistan. That's the last war, major war we had before Iran. Think about how we left Afghanistan. Taliban back in power, hanging off America. We hanging off C-130s. People falling off C-130s. We running from Afghanistan. Okay, so we left Afghanistan like that. Imagine us going in Iran, attacking Iran, and at the end of that war, Iran controlling the Straits. Just imagine that happening. I'm trying to tell you, that would be utter disaster for the United States. What war are you going to go fight after that? Who's going to ask America for protection? We saw how you left in Afghanistan, and now you leaving in Iran with Iran controlling the Straits. It cannot happen. EJ, you saying we listening to the same liars, yet still you coming on here accusing Obama, the only U.S. president, him and Biden, one of the only U.S. presidents for not being on the Epstein list. You accusing him for being a child molester, and he not on the list. That's what I'm saying. So you saying we liars, and you saying that somebody on the Epstein list, and you should be praising him for not being on the list. And you saying he on the list. How you gonna call us liars? You see what I'm saying? Because we speaking truth and facts. There ain't no lie, boy. These are facts, all truth. Brian C., we could talk about Marco Rubio for president. Brian wants Secretary Rubio to win the nomination over J.D. Vance. Listen, let's define what a socialist is, Hannibal. Because I'm saying you could say that Zoran Mondani is a socialist. Socialism is looking out for your neighbors. That's what it is. All of socialism. Look at a communist. Let's take because when you say socialist, you could call it a European socialist. Socialism isn't bad as y'all trying to make it be. Even though with independence, that's why I said the Democrats, see, this is strategy. I got wisdom, I got discernment. That's why the Democratic Socialists don't need to start their own platform. That would be a disaster. They would destroy a movement that will be successful if it's garnered correctly. Because the majority of Americans do not support socialism or socialists. The majority of independents, Republicans at all, and only 1/3 of the Democratic Party do. You got to be aware of this. But what I'm trying to tell you is, moving forward, in a world, y'all give me a second. If y'all hadn't liked the video, double tap the screen for me, because at hour number 2, we going to start cooking. We ain't on tour no more. We could go as long as we want to. How y'all like that? Y'all like going long times with Ghost Rider? Listen, let's talk about the real world. All y'all old politicians with y'all old outdated policies, listen to someone who really smart and who really know what they talking about going on, the real world. Let's look forward. You got to look forward. You can't look at what's going on today. You got to look forward. Artificial intelligence is looking forward. That's America. Ask Elon. He know this. They know. If you let them hear these live streams, they gonna tell you this dude is smart. Even though he talks like a regular person or like he's uneducated. Even though he got a lot of education, the boy's smart. If you look at it's discernment. That's the word. Somebody told me yesterday he got the spirit of discernment. If you look at artificial intelligence, okay, and what the world is about to become, my boy Elon Musk is building humanoids. He said that that company who's selling those humanoids, which are robots that look like humans, I'm sure most of y'all have seen them on the internet. He said those companies that's building those humanoids, his company that's building those humanoids is going to be bigger than Tesla. If you go, and we did live streams about this last year, Amazon replaced, I don't want to say the number percentage of their jobs, but it was greater than 10% of their jobs in their factories and their workforces. They replaced them with artificial intelligence and robots. If you go in Tesla, I don't want to say the percentage, or any car maker in America, any factory in America, a large percentage of the job has already been done by robots. Now you got automated, so you got factories in China where the entire warehouse and factory, China is the world manufacturing leader. Understand that. As the manufacturing leader of the world, they have entire warehouses, fact check me, where the entire warehouse is ran by artificial intelligence. Don't talk about the Waymos and the cars we have in American society that are driven without a driver. Let's talk about the 18-wheelers that can drive 400 miles and is doing this from Texas, Oklahoma, that's running cargo with no driver. That's the future. That's a revolution, industrial revolution. Just like the wheel changed the world, the typewriter changed the world, the internet changed the world, just like the automobile changed the world. I'm trying to tell you guys, artificial intelligence is going to do the same thing. The way it's going to change the world is right now is creating jobs. Right now, the stock market is in a bubble and doing fantastic because there's businesses and there's nations all across the world that's investing trillions of dollars and being the first people to get their hands on the best artificial intelligence technology. It's a bubble. And I'm saying it's not going to burst. What's going to happen is them humanoids, that robot, they put in that software, that artificial intelligence in that robot, and they training it how to do everyday ordinary tasks. So they're training these robots to replace the worker. I've seen people who know way more than me, economists and experts in artificial intelligence, predict by 2030 that the U.S. unemployment rate could hit 10%. That might be a little early, but I know by 2035 the unemployment rate, if you get in humanoids, robots, y'all remember, listen, y'all, we see machine learning right now. Y'all remember in Walmart, some of y'all too young to remember it, but y'all know how y'all do the self-checkout in Walmart and other stores. That didn't used to exist. But what happened is you create a machine that could do the job of a human, and instead of having 100 cashiers, all I need is 20 cashiers to make sure no one's stealing from these self-checkouts that's checking out the majority of the people. The majority of the people who are going into Walmart, they checking themselves out. What I'm saying, artificial intelligence is way greater than that. You feel what I'm saying? Artificial intelligence is going to replace a large percentage of the human workforce. You saying, Ghost, you laid your point out. What's your point to that? Okay, artificial intelligence, because you're going to have a stipend. You're going to have to give the people a stipend. It's only now. You're going to have to. You don't have a choice. You're going to have to give the people a stipend. Listen, if you got millions of Americans who not only cannot work, but what I'm saying is they can't go nowhere to get work. They cannot go nowhere to find work. Everywhere they go to find work is hiring humanoids to do the jobs of what regular people would do. I'm saying in a world, in a situation like that, I'm saying like those policies that you think are socialist or socialistic policies, they're going to be able to work in an age of artificial intelligence. I can't help you don't have that discernment. I can't help if you can't see that. But the smart people, they already see it. They have that discernment. In a world where you have millions of able-bodied people who want work but cannot find work, what are you going to do to help those people? If you were in America and your unemployment rate was at, let's say, 13, 14%, those are million people who aren't working. I'm saying, what you gonna do to help them? You got to do something to help them. If they want to find a job and can't find a job, and it's millions of them, what you gonna do? Let me explain something. Socialism, let's talk about socialism for a second. So let's talk about communism. That's what the key word is. Mayor Mandami, you might get the word socialist in there, but there's no communist. He's a democratic socialist. He believes in democracy, the same thing you believe in as a capitalist, a democratic capitalist. You know that the Chinese, they practice a form of capitalism. It's a form of capitalism, but it's the whether they're capitalists or socialists, that is immaterial. What the word is communist or they're democratic. That's the words. So that's what I'm trying to break down for you. Even if you a socialist, as long as you democratic, it doesn't matter. Democratic is the key. Whether you believe in capitalism, where you have trillionaires walking around when you have people starving. See, that's the thing about socialism. Let me tell you, let's talk about the communists, their version of socialism, okay? Because you're not going to tell me that Mayor Mandami believes in slaughtering thousands of his own people. That's what communists believe in. That's the difference, is Democrat and communist. But let's talk about the socialists, what they believe, even the communist socialists. What a socialist believe is that everybody should make the same amount of money. They're saying that they all should make the same amount of money. Am I right or wrong? Y'all give me a second. My screen got wet. I'm trying to get it right. There it go. We could work with that. The socialists believe that everybody should make the same amount of money. A doctor should make the same amount as a trash truck driver. And also socialists believe the people who don't work or can't work, they take care of them too. So if a socialist is saying that they're gonna pay everybody $15 an hour, regardless of talent, regardless of ability, $15 an hour. Or $20 an hour, whatever the national minimum wage is, everybody get an equal amount. That's basically what they believe in. But I'm saying there's no evil within the socialist policies. There's no evil within the socialism. Everybody getting an equal amount. What's wrong with that? You could say that don't make sense. Some men have greater abilities than others, and I agree with you. That's why I believe in capitalism. But there's more evil on the surface in capitalism than it is in socialism. In capitalism, it's a free fall for the dollar bill. Dollar bill is king. Dollar bill is God in capitalism. Every man chasing the dollar. That's what capitalist society is about. That's how you get a lot of evil in that. Because money is the root of all evil. But if you're talking about just socialism on the surface, I'm not talking about a communist Russia. I'm not talking about a communist China. I'm talking about socialism ran by a democratic country or democratic nation. If you're just talking about socialism on the surface, all they believe is that everybody should have an equal amount. There's no evil in that. Where's the evil in that? You might disagree and say that everybody shouldn't have an equal amount. You should have an amount based on your talent, abilities, and efforts, and I agree with that. But I'm saying just making sure that a man who can't afford to eat eats. There's no evil in that. That's what I'm saying. Y'all talk about socialism like there's evil. There's no evil in socialism. The evil comes in the communist part. And I'll break that down. If you look at Russia, if you look at China, and if you look at Iran, they're allies. They're all communist nations. They all believe in slaughtering their people if they don't agree. Communist control. So listen, this is what I'm saying. The Iranians, what you call them? Are they socialists? Would you call the Iranians socialists? The Iranians aren't socialists. They're religious people, Islamists. They're not socialists. You could say that the socialist. You could say that the Russia is socialist. You might be right, but I don't really see socialism being prevalent. Listen, I see socialism being prevalent in Saudi Arabia, of all places you wouldn't define as socialist. They give their citizens stipend checks, and they don't have to work. Saudi Arabia pay their citizens millions of dollars, billions of dollars, and they don't have to work. That's socialist. But you would say the Muslims are socialists? That's what I'm saying. Socialism could be practiced by anybody. It could be practiced by Democrats. It could be practiced by Republicans. It could be practiced by communists. It could be practiced by democracy. Socialism could be practiced by anybody. You're not going to tell me socialism is bad. What is bad is communism. That's what's bad. You just telling me socialism is bad because communist countries decided to practice socialism. I know what listen, we know what you might not know, but I know what Karl Marx wrote about socialism. I know what he wrote. I know the reason why Americans have ran away from socialism for decades and generations. I understand that. But if a business is looking at COVID or is looking at an oil crisis and saying, hey, we got to pay 1 cent extra to get these eggs, and there is a chickens are dying, and so what we gonna do, we gonna charge $3 extra per carton of eggs. Price gouging. How you gonna control price gouging in a community? Listen, over the years, listen to me, over the years, because all capitalistic societies across the world is in major debt. All the governments across the world. I talk about the economies across the world. The economies across the world who got the money are the capitalists, but they're all in debt. America has money, but it has debt. Great Britain has money, but it has debt. France has, you see what I'm saying? So I'm saying all of these societies, China don't have these problems. You could go to the socialism, but it needs to be democratic. We don't want to go to authoritarianism. The socialists, the ones who you said that are going to destroy America or want to reform America to become more democratic, they just don't want to leave nobody behind. And that's the problem the Republicans have. Y'all believe it's okay to leave somebody behind. The Democrats, they believe it's okay to leave a meth head behind, but not before trying to cure him of his sickness or his illness. The Republicans believe that the meth heads, it's a meth head. And they right really what they saying. The Democrats, they gonna try to socialize. I'm just saying, bro, like you not gonna win this argument. Well, listen. This is what I'm saying. Let's go to Michigan. Let's go to Michigan. That's our test. You got a Democratic socialist on the ballot. Oh, Mayor Mondami only ran and won in New York because New York is an ultra blue city. They're socialists and communists, and you know what I've seen since I've been in New York? I've seen a bunch of common sense people. But let's say we're going to take your argument. It's a blue city. Mayor Mondami and the socialists only won in New York because it's a blue city. By the way, he beat a Democrat. Como ran as an independent, but he really the Democrat, and he was trying to tell y'all that Mondami is a Democratic socialist, but the Democrats don't care. Because when they looked at Chris Como, they seen more of the same. a sexually immoral politician, whether he a Democrat or a Republican or independent. But when they looked at Mayor Mondami, they seen a 34-year-old with fresh ideas. A cool guy, smoked weed before, made rap songs before, he's relatable. It's not somebody who you said, this is somebody who we really can relate to. I can. If you know me, that's right up my alley, and he 34. You can't paint him as a Muslim. The city full of Muslims. Who cares? I'm talking about, this ain't Mississippi, Alabama. I get you on that point. This city is full of Muslims. It's full of Jews and Christians. So you can't play in this city that he's a Muslim. That don't really matter that much no more. The dude, a cool dude with fresh ideas. Here's this difference though. Here's what's gonna win him the election. What's he gonna do for the people? Chris Cuomo, we don't believe you a Democrat, but we don't believe you as a Democrat gonna do nothing for the people compared to what this socialist, as y'all say, is talking about. Listen, I'm gonna tell you a story. This girl told me. I seen on T, it's like she was talking to me personally. I seen on, I think it was CNN, it was a story they did. On this woman lived in Ohio. And her rent went from what, 900, 1,000, 1,400 some dollars. It don't matter. It went up, it doubled. It doubled. If it was 900, it went up to 1,800, she said, in 4 years. I mean, with over a period of time, I forgot how many years. But I think she said it started at about 800 or 900. I might have thought 1,400, but I think she said it. I need to go watch it again. She said it started about $800 or $900, and it didn't double, and within about however many years. So now, I don't care if it was 15 years ago. I got this apartment for 800, and 15 years later, this same exact apartment is now 1,600. She's saying she can't afford to pay the rent now. Yeah, Mondami, he addressed that. He stopped rent freezes. He stopped landlords for raising rent. Landlords raising rent in these apartments at will. But the American people, ain't they income, the majority of them, their income ain't raising. We ain't getting no more money yet, and still my rent keep going up. The mayor, he stopped that in New York City. These people can't afford to pay higher rent. The 40% or more of the city living in rent-controlled apartments. They already either rent-controlled or the city paying their voucher. We can't afford to keep paying these landlords more rent. That's common sense you doing for the people. See, we don't care if you making $2.4 billion. You doing something for the people. That's what they want. That's what they want. I'm saying, okay, I'm a pave how many thousands, hundreds of thousands of potholes. That's something that people care about. I'm gonna have the buses and the trains running for free. That's something people care about. We gonna try to get the poor people to ride the bus for free. That's something people care about. It's like the stuff he's saying is generated and calculated towards the people. The women who have babies, 4 and 5 year old babies, 3-year-old babies, I'm gonna get you free health care. That's doing stuff for the people. Oh, I'm gonna go fight for millions of dollars in tips for cab drivers. That's doing stuff for the people. He look like the people's champ. The American people ain't gonna care you calling them a socialist. President Trump and the Republicans are giving him the rise. That's the new Tea Party. That's the new Tea Party. Is the Democratic Socialists. That's their version of the Tea Party. And President Trump he created Mayor Mondami. Just like George Bush, he created Barack Obama. But you saying Mayor Mondami, the socialists, they could just win in Michigan. Let me tell you what's happening in America if the Democratic Socialists just be patient. I mean, they could just win in New York, because in Michigan is a blue state. Michigan is a state President Trump won in 2016 and 2024. He didn't win it in 2020 though. President Biden won it. It's a swing state. So if you could win in Michigan, you could win in any state. Let me tell you what's going to happen. In Michigan, running for Senate, you have another young Muslim who's a Democratic Socialist, El Said. He gonna win against the sitting Democrat. Is he running for Senate or Congress? Y'all help me out here for a second. Down below in the chat. He running for Senate and Congress. He gonna beat the sitting senator or congresswoman he running against. He gonna beat her. It's a Democrat. He gonna defeat the Democrat in the primary. I could tell you that right now. 10,000%. He gonna beat the Democrat and he gonna beat the Republican. You gonna have a Democratic socialist gonna win in Michigan. So Democratic socialists, they could win in blue states. They could win in purple states. And all we waiting on them to see is a Democratic socialist win in a red state. Once you see that, it's over with. That's the movement. If you see a Democratic socialist win in a red state, AOC gonna be the president in 2029. And I'm telling you that first. It's because of her policies and the American people believe her. See, the American people believe President Trump. They don't care if you're Republican or a Democrat. See, most of the Democrats think that the American people care or against the Republicans. They don't care if you're a Republican or a Democrat. They just looking for a politician who's gonna help them. They're looking for a politician who's going to get gas prices down low. They're looking for a politician who's going to get cheeseburgers at McDonald's at $1 a piece. That's what the American people, the majority, plurality. Remember, I'm not talking about your Democratic mama. I'm not talking about your MAGA enemy. I'm talking about the majority plurality of the American people. They're looking for somebody who's going to help them. Affordability crisis. Not Elon and them. Not the top 10%. We talking about the plurality. The majority of the American people make less than $80,000 a year. That's the majority. 80,000 is the average, sure, but the majority make less. The majority of the American people are looking for a politician who's gonna do something for them. I could tell you the mindset of the American voter in 2026. That's what we're going to talk about next, because I talk about it all the time. This is strategy. This is what it's our strategy section. I'm trying to tell you what the American voter looking for in the midterm elections in November. This is August. September, October, boy, you under 100 days left. And you're going to have those midterm elections, which are ever so important in politics in America moving forward. Y'all stay with me now. Yeah, it is. They saying the centrist is far left, but it don't matter. The Democratic Socialists are look, the Democratic Socialists have performed a number on America and the Republican Party. And Mayor Mondami might be the most popular one, but it's going to become more relevant soon. And the thing about a Democratic Socialist, they're going to be Democrats too. They don't just be Republicans, they're going to be Democrats too. Because the people look at the Democrats and Republicans being almost the same. I'm trying to tell you. So the American people have figured out this. Look, they say both parties are going to be corrupt. They figured it out. You're going to get corruption from a Democrat and a Republican. It ain't going to be no different. You see what I'm saying? We don't care if you saying that Mayor Mondami is corrupt. We used to you saying that we going to get a corrupt politician or a politician who don't do nothing. So we understand that. Here's the difference. President Trump's corruption, whether or not he corrupt or not, he made over $2 billion in a year. If he stay on that pace, he gonna make $10 billion as president. Why would I take a $400,000 a year salary if I'm gonna make $10 billion, $8 billion being president? You see what I'm saying? I don't need that money, that little chump change either. But whether or not you say that's corruption or not, that's a conversation. Let's just say it's corruption. I'm not going to say that because ain't no investigations being conducted, but let's just say it's corruption. Say President Obama did something, he didn't make that much money while he was in office, but say he was involved in corruption too, the Republicans going to find some corruption on you too. So both parties are corrupt. The difference is President Trump, he made $2 billion, and President Obama, he gave us health care. President Obama gave us food stamps, and President Trump cut our food stamps. President Obama gave us Medicaid and President Trump cut our Medicaid. That's the difference. You see what I'm saying? That's the difference. Y'all, I just observed, I had a water sitting there over there on the ledge. I just observed a dude pick up my water and drink my water. I said, bro, you gotta be a thirsty dude if you gonna pick up a water that you don't know whose water it is, just sitting there and pick it up and drink it. Something like that, bro. I can't even get mad over there, bro. But in the city, any city you go to, you're gonna see a lot of stuff. That's some funny stuff, bro. You don't know where my lips been, really. You a wild man, bro. That's how you get sick, though. But he big fat dude. I am too, though. I don't care. I ain't big and fat like that. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, I got shorts on and everything. I'm chilling this right now. I need to do laundry in there. Hey, but listen, though. That's what I'm saying, man. Y'all feel where I'm coming from, though. I'm saying the Democrats, the thing about AOC has been preaching the same sermon since she first came into Congress. That's smart. And all she talk about is helping people and giving stuff to people. We laugh at you Republicans laugh at that, saying you gonna give away the house. You laugh at that. But what I'm trying to say is we look at the Republicans since they've been president, they spend more money than Democrats. President Trump, since he's been president, he spent more money than President Obama, and he's only been president for 5.5 years. President Obama was president for 8 years. And President Trump has been president already. He's added more to the national debt than any other president in U.S. history, and he's a Republican. George Bush did that too before the. So I'm saying, like, where can you say as a Republican you being conservative and you saving money, fraud, waste, and abuse? So we got the Democrat corrupt. We got the Republican corrupt. We got the Republican has add more money to the national debt than the Democrat, but the difference is Republicans, y'all get rich. You put money in your pockets and you put money in the rich people's pockets. And the Democrats might be putting money in their pockets, but they put money in our pockets too. That's the difference. It's about who's gonna listen. We don't want to elect you. Yeah, okay, you can laugh all you want to. We don't want to elect you to be the American president of the American people to enrich yourself. If you gonna get something, why shouldn't we get something? How that don't make sense? If you gonna get $2 billion, why shouldn't we get something? Because I'm saying that Mayor Mandami, that socialist, he talking about giving us something too. That Barack Obama, that progressive, he talking about giving us something too. That AOC, she gonna give us something too. She might get, and she ain't gonna get 2.5 billion, but she might put some money in her pocket. We didn't accept it that we can't do nothing about it. We didn't elected every different politician, tried to drain the swamp. We said we need a revolution, all of that. Republican, Democrat, it don't matter. They all end up being corrupt. They all come out turning out on some pervert. You all bad. We looking at both sides and saying this side bad, that side bad. So your argument about the Democrats, we don't want to hear Republican because you bad too. That's what I'm saying. That we look at y'all bad too. Y'all bad too. It's just this side right here, their policies are going to help more Americans. That's the only difference. If you say the Republicans corrupt, the Democrats, they're going to say y'all corrupt too. They don't, y'all, if you say the Democrats handing away free stuff to people, well, the Republicans are giving free stuff to billionaires and trillionaires and themselves. President Trump, that's the worst thing that could happen to a Republican Party's argument is President Trump making $2.6 billion in a year. Whether or not he was corrupt or not, I think it's immaterial. I think the main argument is that he made a whole bunch of money and the American people who are suffering ain't getting nothing. That's the argument. So why would I vote for you to make a lot of money and create a trillionaire in the world? Why should I vote for you to do that? I don't want to hear about no fraud, waste, and abuse and saving money because y'all spending more money than the Democrats. I don't want to hear about not giving away entitlement programs because when y'all cutting food stamps, you cut Medicaid, and you still add more money to the national debt than the Democrats. So I'm saying the difference between the Democrat and the Republican is the Republicans gonna help themselves and the rich, and the Democrats might help themselves, but they gonna help me too. VP Harris had a $50,000 tax break if you go start your own business. That's better than President Trump giving a tax break to Elon, period. Think about how you're going to stimulate the U.S. economy. If you know how it's a man making $80,000, $90,000 a year, he got a little savings, but he want to go start a business. He can't afford to quit his job. You give him a $50,000 tax break, you're going to have business starting up all over America. That's the backbone of America, is small businesses. You giving everybody a chance at the American dream. That's going to help more people if you give a $50,000 tax break to start a business than if you give Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk tax breaks, because you saying that they creating wealth. You add more to the national debt doing that. That's craziness. I can never support that. That's why that's why we gonna vote for Mondami. Because we can't support that crazy stuff you talking. You could say he a communist. You could say he support transgenders. You could say he abortion, and you might be right, and I don't support gay marriage, none of that. But I can't vote for that crazy stuff you talking about. You gonna give, look, VP Harris say she gonna give a $25,000 tax break for people to buy a house. And what you Republicans have done to help people to buy houses? You can help the rich. You can help the stock market. Guess what? Newsflash, Republicans, Elon don't even need your help. You helping a man, you call yourself helping the American economy by helping people who need the help the least, and turning your back on the ones who Jesus was feeding and raising from the dead. You turning your back on the ones Jesus was feeding and healing to go help the ones that Jesus said it's harder for him, it's easier for him to enter into the eye of a needle than to get into heaven. You gonna go help that rich man and turn your back on the poor. You the exact opposite for Jesus, but you so smart you got yourself in a $39 trillion debt. Trying to be cute and give a rich man who should be paying taxes, giving him a tax break because he donate money to your campaign. That's a Republican problem. It's huge. The difference between Mondami and you is he gonna do something for us, and you gonna do something for yourself and Elon. And that's why he gonna win every election and you gonna lose every one. He not just gonna be Republicans, he gonna be Democrats too. That's the difference. The Republicans have figured it out. President Trump figured it out. That's why he went out there acting like he was finna give something to the people. When them hurricanes came that ravaged the South during the campaigns, he was out there saying, oh, Joe Biden and VP Harris only giving $750. Y'all remember them Trump checks that I had to wait and put my name on the bottom of? Y'all remember all that money from COVID? The people thinking the poor people thinking he finna do something for them. He gonna have gas cheap. We gonna be I ain't gonna lie, under his first administration, minorities, their wages increased for the first time in a long time. President Trump, he did some stuff for black people and minorities, as much as a Republican can do it. They were expecting that again. That's not what they get. That's what I'm saying. That's not what they got. To this point, that's not what they get. To this point, the Republicans have did absolutely nothing to help the majority of Americans. The majority. We talking hundreds of millions of Americans make less than $100,000 a year. If you talk about just the working, over 100 million Americans make less than it's only 170 million voting Americans. So you're not gonna count the old people, or the babies, or the 17-year-olds who can't vote, or younger. So you saying, but there's a lot more than 170 million. There's more than I don't know the exact number, but there's about 200 million Americans, over 200 million Americans who's eligible to vote. Who's eligible. But only 170 million or so Americans voted. So let's focus on all the Americans who voted and who eligible. You looking over 200 million. You looking at the majority, the vast majority of Americans who vote and who live, who breathe and work in America make less than $100,000 a year. So if you want to stay in power, you're going to have policies to help people who make less than $100,000 a year, because that's the vast majority of people going in the voting booth. Common sense ain't that common. You got all your policies geared to help rich people, and that's good. Rich people got the power and rich people got the influence, but rich people are not the majority of the voters. So eventually, you gonna lose power because the majority of the voters make less than $100,000 a year. Common sense ain't that common. It's common sense. So I'm gonna make my policies that's geared to help the rich. That's why President Trump's saying that we have a good economy. You see what I'm saying? Because he's only looking at the ones who are wealthy. Fine in President Trump's economy. Newsflash, they did fine in President Biden's economy. Oh, they might be doing better in President Trump's economy. I'll give you that. But I'm just saying the majority of Americans, they are in the same position or probably a worse position because inflation has increased. The gas prices are higher. The prices of goods are higher. They're in a worse position than when that's a problem for you. Forget the numbers. Forget the polls. I don't see how you can. I don't see how you can't see it by looking at the numbers of the polls. But forget them. What I'm trying to say is it's clearly seen President Trump's failures due to his decision to attack Iran. You got visibly higher gas prices than when he took over, visibly higher inflation than when he took over. So we visibly can see that the people making less than $100,000 a year, who for the first time in a long time, voters making less than $50,000 voted for a Republican, we can visibly see that he has not fulfilled his expectations. I don't have to look at a poll. That's common sense. That's discernment. I can discern that easily. I don't have to see a poll. The majority of Americans are still in the same situation. How can you say they not? If gas is higher and inflation is higher, if everything is higher, the price of the average American is in the same position they was before he took over, or worse. We're not talking about the rich people. The rich people are in a better position than they were when he took over. That's facts. We talking about the $100,000, the middle class. That's what we talking about. Y'all, we've been streaming this morning for 2 hours and 36 minutes, y'all. We are about to hit 3 hours. We could do this, though, whenever we are, because I'm not going to be live again till Thursday. I used to do 4, 5, and 6 hour live streams. The longest I think I was live for 5 hours. Y'all, we're going to try to see if we could beat that on the Strategizing with Ghostwriter. We're going to try to see if we could do a 6, 7, 8 hour live stream. At least one, while we outside. But guys, this morning though, you know what I'm saying? We've been live for about, 2 hours and 37 minutes. Look, I was supposed to be live tomorrow, but I had a court date scheduled for tomorrow. So I'm going to see if that court date is still scheduled later on today. And if that court date is still scheduled, then of course I'm not going to be live tomorrow. But if the court date is not scheduled, we might do an extra live stream tomorrow, you know what I'm saying, on Tuesday. But we definitely be off on Wednesday and Sunday. We might be off on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Sunday, but we definitely will be off on Tuesday and Sunday. So you guys look for me tomorrow at 7 a.m. Eastern, and I might stream. But if I do, I'll post it later on today, the live stream that we will do for tomorrow. Strategizing with Ghostwriter, first episode, Upper West Side of Manhattan. If you guys have not liked the video, go ahead and double tap the screen for me. Like the video, subscribe to the channel. Make sure y'all hit that notification bell. EJ always talking about where's the ladies, bro. I'm in a neighborhood. This is a neighborhood and it's raining outside. This is a neighbor. The Upper West Side is a neighborhood. These are apartments. These aren't businesses or clubs. So it's people, regular people in the neighborhood. No one's looking for girls but you, EJ. We not here in New York City for girls. We here for what we doing right now and those legal cases that I'm working on Tuesday and Wednesdays of this week, and next week on Monday, Wednesday, and Saturday. So I get 2 or 3 days to work on my legal cases now. Instead of going live all 7 days, I still work on the legal cases when I'm going live. But I'm saying I got 2 or 3 full days to work on them. You know what I'm saying? Instead of having to plan around coming live, and then after I go live, I have other stuff to do after the live stream pertaining to YouTube. Give about 3 or 4 hours worth of work in the morning on YouTube. You know what I'm saying? And then I go work on my legal cases for about 3 or 4 hours or so. You know what I'm saying? Give or take. But like now, what I'm saying is you know, I'm only going to be going live for, you know what I'm saying? But it probably the same amount of hours, even though I'm not going live every single day. I'm just going to give it to y'all only on 3 or 4 days a week. NYC, baby, Upper West Side, 2 hours and 40 minutes, man. Somebody said, good luck on my cases, sir. I don't need luck. I got God. You see what I'm saying? When you got God, you don't need no kind of luck. You got God. What kind of luck you need when you got God? The man without God, he need luck. I got God. I don't need no luck in no kind of situation, no kind of fight, no nothing. I don't need no luck. I got God. He needs luck. You see what I'm saying? Because I'm saying how small he is, he gonna get his jaw broke. I'm saying how small you are. You can't send no little 80-pound dude at me, bro. I'm telling you, I'm too big and too strong. That 80-pound dude, especially if he young with inexperience, I'm in my prime and I'm strong, I'm gonna break that boy jaw in 15 places. I'm not gonna let myself go to jail, but I'm just telling you what's gonna happen. Ask about me. You feel what I'm saying? His jaw gonna get shattered. That little 20, 18, 19-year-old boy gonna go home with it to his mama with her. You know, so many young people in our communities within our communities going home to their mama in a body bag, especially our black communities. Because these 18-year-olds, they don't have discipline, and people be using them for crash dummies to go crash out. I know an 18-year-old in Mississippi, where I'm from, used to rob houses. And he went into a white man's house one day and tried to rob his house. And that white man took a shotgun and blew his head off the back of his shoulders. You see what I'm saying? It's unfortunate. We see that in Chicago, 18-year-olds killing each other. You know? It's very unfortunate. I was trying to be nice. I'm always trying to be nice. That's what I do. I'm a nice guy. I don't be mean to anybody who try to be nice. Chicago is safer than New York. EJ, twice you've been smoking crack, fentanyl, and crystal meth. Hey y'all, EJ has been smoking crack, fentanyl, and crystal meth. He said that Chicago is safer than New York. Look, Chicago is 1/5 of the city of New York's population, and I guarantee you Chicago got more murders than New York doing. Ain't no question. Look, Chicago is smaller than Brooklyn. Chicago, population-wise, is smaller than Brooklyn. It's smaller than the Bronx, and it's smaller than I said Brooklyn. I said the Bronx and Queens. Chicago is smaller than Brooklyn, the Bronx, and Queens. You understand that? That's 3 boroughs in the city of New York that's got more people living in them and then in the city of Chicago. And yet and still, I guarantee you Chicago's got more murders than the entire city of New York. I guarantee you Chicago, somebody look it up. EJ, y'all show EJ, he always in here talking that smack. Somebody show EJ real quick that Chicago got more murders in it than the city of New York. Back when I used to check, I think the city of Chicago had like 700 murders, and I don't think the city of New York had 300 or 400 murders. And you talking about 10 million versus 2 million. So New York is way safer than Chicago. New York is probably one of the safest big cities in the world. It's definitely the safest out the big cities in America. New York City is safer than Chicago, it's safer than Los Angeles, and it's safer than Houston. So EJ, you are absolutely wrong. Somebody says, am I a Trump retard? I never voted for President Trump. President Trump ran for president 3 times and I never voted for him once. I'll say that one more time. President Trump ran for president 3 times. I never voted for him once. I stay in Mississippi in Trump country. I was from Mississippi, excuse me. I came from Mississippi in Trump country. I moved to Texas for 2 years. Even though I was in Houston, Texas still Trump country. I never voted for President Trump. 2024, I was in Houston, didn't vote for him. 2016, where was I at? Mississippi, maybe? I might have been in Mississippi. I didn't vote for him either in 2016. In 2020, I was in New Mexico or Colorado during the election, I believe, and I didn't vote for President Trump either. So I was in a blue state one of the 3 times that he ran. I was living in the blue state. I never voted for him none of the 3 times. It had nothing to do with the blue state, red state, any state. I'm not political like that. It's not about politics. It's about what's right and what's wrong. It's about what's best for America. Chicago is very beautiful. Chicago, in my opinion, Chicago is the prettiest of the big cities. That's my opinion again. Out of New York, Chicago, LA, and Houston, New York, I mean, you gotta get a part of New York. You could say Manhattan, you could compare that to downtown Chicago, but I think downtown Chicago is probably the prettiest out of all of them. You know, I love them lakes. Chicago is on one of America's Great Lakes. And it's gorgeous downtown. I'm not going to even lie to you. It's very gorgeous. One of the prettiest big cities. One of the prettiest cities, period, that I ever been to in my entire life. Chicago, Illinois. That's just being real. Chicago is a city of justice. Chicago is a city of black excellence. You know what I'm saying? I'm not poo-pooing on Chicago at all. It's that land. Guys, that's my time, man. You know what I'm saying? It's been Ghost Rider, Upper West Side of Manhattan, man. America the Beautiful. Strategizing for 80 more years of American greatness. If y'all have not liked the video before we end the live stream, it's free to show a brother some love. Just double tap the screen for me. If you're on a cell phone, like the video. Make sure you subscribe and hit the notification bell so you can be live every time we go live. As I said, tomorrow, guys, Strategizing with Ghost Rider episode 2. Number 2 might come tomorrow at 7 a.m. If not, we won't be live again till Thursday at 7 a.m. Eastern time. So because y'all don't see me every day going live, y'all don't go find somebody else who y'all think better than me on Tuesdays and Wednesdays, or on Mondays and Wednesdays. That's one thing about doing a tour. You build that following. You know what I'm saying? We the people, we had a live following, we had memberships and everything. And then I stopped going live every day, and the people on the days they come to listen to Ghost See ain't live, they go find somebody else. Well, I got a few loyal people though. About 20 of y'all. It don't matter what happened. If I'm on this live stream, y'all gonna be on here listening to what I have to say. I appreciate y'all. I love every last one of y'all. And I'll see y'all either in the morning on Thursday at 7 a.m. Eastern. Y'all, EJ, man, you be good, man. NYC for life. Now, just playing with y'all. Got to do that, y'all. I'm out.